The final play of the regular season for the final spot in the playoffs. Tyler Luke from 44. Snap good. Hold it. The kick is no good. It is wide right. And the Steelers are the champions of the North.
Heyo, welcome to Heed the Call, an NFL podcast. Dan Hanzus here with Marc Sessler, Conor Orr, Justin Graver, and yes, Mike Tirico with the call. And in a season as frankly insane as the 2025 regular season has been in the NFL, it's only fitting that the Ravens and Steelers turn the fourth quarter into a shootout rife with busted coverages and touchdowns, and then a missed extra point, and then, yes, poor Tyler Loop, with a little help from the Catholic Church, potentially in Pittsburgh, and a priest walking across the back end zone line, allow the Steelers to survive and advance to the playoffs with a 26-24 win. We're going to get into that game and all the games that were played on this Sunday. But before we do that, let's fly up what we're going to be getting next week on Wild Card Weekend. Saturday, we get Rams at Panthers, followed by Packers at Bears, Saturday night in prime time. Then on Sunday, we're going to get Bills at Jacksonville against the Jaguars. Niners at Philadelphia to face the defending champion Eagles. That's on Fox. And then the primetime game Sunday will be Chargers at Foxborough against the Patriots. Slobber knocker incoming there. And then we finish the first week of the playoffs with these Pittsburgh Steelers hosting as the division champions. Yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers, AFC North champions, hosting the Houston Texans to wrap Wild Card Weekend. Sessy, that was wild. That was a wild way to cap the regular season.
It was. And I think it's kind of special because in a regular season that has been the weirdest that we've experienced together as a group, with a lot of new names, new faces, new teams, like we're still closing it out with Ravens Steelers. And I don't know. I came out of this thinking like, were you both trying to lose this game? There were a lot of problematic issues. I thought that Chris Boswell might never kiss a girl in Pittsburgh ever again after this. But then suddenly Tyler Loop comes in and solves that problem. But there was so many twists and turns. And they so much, these two teams who absolutely were who they are in all their flaws. And the Steelers, minus DK Metcalf, they were a screen pass offense tonight, found a way to get out of here, doing everything wrong on some level, but getting out of here. And it was just a very Steelers Ravens-esque. I will not call it vintage, but I'll say it had that feel to it. And it was the perfect way to cap Sunday night on the final regular season week of the NFL season.
I was telling Justin before we started that I've been on a bit of a lock drought of late. And when Tyler Loop was lining up for the game winner, I felt so supremely confident. And as the kick is just like bending off screen, it seemed like it just plunged into Lake Erie at that point.
Then he missed the net, Connor. He missed the net.
And then the next clip is Mike Tomlin, who I've had my fair share of disagreements with this season, pounding his chest and like disco dancing. Like this is exactly the way that he fucking drew it up. And this was all part of the plan. I have not been that triggered by something since I've been like 11 and Notre Dame lost to USC. Like I felt a visceral emotional reaction to that.
You know what?
But that's what football's supposed to be.
Or since 24 hours ago, probably, Connor, if you're honest. But
it is like if Marc Sessler is the Michelangelo of the angry text where you could actually hear him hissing what he's typing, your tweet that you sent out moments after they showed Tomlin was I could hear your anger, and we'll get into it. It's another bad week for us with the locks, but like
Jesus.
But you got to give him a pass. I mean, this is a game. What made this game so interesting? Neither of these teams, by the way, are to me. As you're watching the game, you're saying we're watching a team that's about to go on a Cinderella run to the Super Bowl. But sometimes it's just like, let's enjoy these two rivals going back and forth, especially set against the backdrop of the job statuses of these longtime stalwarts for their organizations, John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin. And I know the reporting's been kind of all over the place around both these guys. And Harbaugh, you saw his face as he was walking toward midfield to meet Tomlin, and then, trying to process what just happened, that this game that had gone back and forth and back and forth. And then you finally, after on 4th and 7, Lamar, who made some huge plays in this game in the fourth quarter, hits Isaiah Likely, who's been a part of so many near huge plays for the Ravens in the last 2 years. He finally goes up and grabs this pass. They're in field goal range. And now Harbaugh, after a 1-5 start, is primed to steal this division, probably, end any conversation about his job security. And then the kicker gets overwhelmed. The rookie kicker gets overwhelmed by the moment. So I understand why Harbaugh looked the way he did after the game. I also understand why Tomlin, while yes, he was very fortunate that played out the way it played out, he's pounding his chest because there's been a lot of pressure on Tomlin this year. So all of a sudden to come out on the other side, like in Shawshank, 2 football fields of smelling foulness, come out on the other side as a 10-game winner, an AFC North champion who's hosting a playoff game on Monday night. That's why he's pounding his chest. It's been a very emotional year for everyone connected with that team.
Well, also, I can't think of a coach that would be more prone to pounding his chest based off a result that didn't directly have to do with strategic input that he made. And I mean that in a nice way about Tomlin. He's just kind of like,
no,
he's just that dude.
That was a Sirianni move, is what it was.
But I like that from Tomlin. Tomlin is one of those guys that will do that. But I would love to know what the emotional state, because you can't be thinking a week ahead or even a day ahead or 2 weeks ahead. But it's like you are fighting for your livelihood, your pride, your job. And then when Zay Flowers is burning up Jalen Ramsey in your secondary, when you didn't expect that to happen late in the game, and then suddenly the game turns out the way it did, and they only gave Derrick Henry 5 second-half carries, I believe. It was like stuff just went really off the rails. And Tomlin coming out of that pounding the chest to me is just saying, I survived all of this. You've been talking about me for 2 months and I survived. And Tomlin to me is that guy. And of the two, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with either of these people, but to me, Tomlin is just no matter what happens to me, I'll be okay.
Yeah, this feels like if you would ask him, and he's not going to talk about it now or maybe ever, but probably was the most emotional season of his career, given the way it all played out, the fast start, the deep funk, blowing the game against the Browns last week, and then the roller coaster of the fourth quarter. It's also a very emotional game for Aaron Rodgers, who's had his own ups and downs in his career, especially in the last 3 years or so. And now he that kick goes through the uprights. We're having a question of, did we watch Aaron Rodgers' last game? Instead, he's back in the playoffs for the first time since leaving the Packers. Here's Rodgers.
It's pretty emotional, honestly. It's been a great year. So I'm thankful for these guys and excited to be going to the playoffs for the first time in a long while.
Does that mean you're riding off into the sunset after this?
No, it's been a grinding
Old
year.
Starco.
And 2 years before that were tough as well. So
listen, if we're all gonna come to the defense of Laura Rutledge, and I'm glad we did, for her, who was it? She hunted down who was the quarterback who didn't want to talk? Herbert. Let's also give
Darnold more recently
on Saturday. Yeah.
Let's give some credit to Starco, because Starco probably knew that Aaron Rodgers is going to shoot death daggers right at her for asking that question in that spot rather than just letting him, quote unquote, enjoy the win. But she had to ask the question. She even said it as she transitioned to the next conversation point with a different Steelers player. She's like, I had to ask. Anyway, nice win.
I suppose.
I'm sorry, Connor. That's a tough one. That's a tough loss. But that is, you're a God-fearing man. That was a nice moment for Father Dempsey. And
you got to like a Catholic officiant getting involved there.
Why you wear your Notre Dame
spices.
Hoodie? I mean, let's focus on the positives of that moment and try to not dwell on just an absolute dagger of a loss in the lock competition with a chance to go one clear of the field entering the postseason. Let's not focus on that.
Yeah, there was the holy water, and that was the end zone that was blessed before the game, the one that Luke missed. But if you go back and you watch the shot, right down the middle of the pipes, someone was holding a John 3:16, which, like, when was the last time we saw John 3:16? Hell yeah.
Two things I want back in 26. John 3:16 signs. I want them everywhere.
Yeah,
okay.
sure.
I want every sporting event. I want just religious fanatics bringing signs with scripture. Okay. I want it back.
That.
The other thing I want back, Dean scream. I want it back. I want it in the discourse. Okay. And I won't settle until I get the Dean screen back.
They go hand in hand in terms of revival. So I totally agree.
All right. Anything else? There he is. Anything else on this brilliant Sunday night affair?
Lamar was awesome in this game. However, there were a couple moments on that final drive where I thought he could have ended up being the villain and, setting them up for that 4th and 7 in the first place. That miscommunication with DeAndre Hopkins. I thought he was drifting a lot in the pocket on that drive. And I don't know about you guys, but there was just that singular moment there where I was like, oh my God, are we coming out of this being like, it's the get rid of Lamar game too? Like, there were so many different bends in this game that I thought could have resulted in a shockingly different outcome.
There's reporting around that. So
that 4th and 7 was preceded by, as you mentioned, the Hopkins play where Lamar scrambles out of trouble, and Hopkins, as was happening every possession for both teams, just massive coverage busts. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on with these defenses, but Hopkins kind of he hides along the sideline. And then after Lamar clears the pocket, there's no one around Hopkins. And here's Lamar saying, dude, there's no one behind you. There's 50 yards of green between you and the end zone. So he kind of puts a little air under it, and Hopkins just parks in front of the first down marker because he's just thinking, let's move the chains. And it was a miscommunication that then was followed by Lamar looking totally out of sorts as he got scrambled out of the pocket and almost took a terrible sack and then just winged it out of bounds, kind of got away with potential disaster there. So you're right. It was that close. If that 4th and 7, if that pass that he throws to Likely is 6 inches higher, we're having a totally different conversation. So from that standpoint, and Ravens fans don't want to hear this, and we got to keep moving because there's so much to talk about today. But this game, if you're John Harbaugh, if you're a Lamar, it could have been the conversations around your team could have been focused on that you're the problem. Instead, it's more going to be focused on, well, the defense kind of shit the bed, but the kicker didn't make the kick, 44 yards, and this is a totally different conversation, and that's why place kicker is literally the hardest, most unforgiving job in professional sports. I stand by it. I feel bad for that kid. He replaces Justin Tucker, who was the greatest to ever do it before his decline and then legal troubles. Loop had a very good year, but now he has this attached to him, and he has to move forward in his career. It's crazy the way the sport is and the human side of it. The Steelers survive. All right.
For now.
All right, there you go. Sunday night in the rear view, but we have so much more to get to. Let's swing over to the NFC now. We're going to go all through the NFC, then take a break. Then we're going to go through all the AFC and then offer analysis that's like a B-, I would say, Mark. That's what we're going for here.
A stunning B-.
Right. Right. Stunning B- is the bar we're looking to clear. And let us start with the showdown on Saturday night with the number 1 seed and the NFC West on the line. I can't figure out this league. It makes me look like a dumbass every week. Listen, the 49ers came into the Saturday game against the Seahawks with a lot going for them. Their offense completely unstoppable. Brock Purdy playing like an MVP in December and into January. They're home. They're playing as well as anybody in football. All they had to do is defeat the Seahawks. Just keep the good times rolling. But the Seattle Seahawks had other plans. Mike McDonald's defense went off, completely neutralizing San Francisco's attack. And the offense played mistake-free football. And when you combine defense at that level with a clean if not overwhelming operation on the offense, the Seahawks are going to win a lot of games, maybe even the last game in February. Final here, 13-3. And indeed, Seattle wins its first NFC West title since 2020 and are just 2 home wins away from getting back to Levi Stadium for Super Bowl 60. It was that big a game, Conor Orr, because not only does the Seahawks have that great path to get to the biggest game, San Francisco, which was already beat up, has to get on a plane and travel and play next week. And who knows how that's going to turn out for them. So massive, massive victory for the Seahawks on multiple levels.
I don't know if you guys were as surprised as I was when you were hearing the announcers talk about the pregame conversations that they had with coaches, how much weight Kyle Shanahan put on that bye. He didn't even disguise how badly he needed that week of rest for his players and just how exhausted and how beat up they were. And he even said that he would have argued that getting that bye would have been more important than whatever the prep that they would have put in or whatever the importance that they would put behind their first round playoff game, which is stunning to me. But it shows you just how much they threw at Mike Macdonald and that team and how great Mike Macdonald was last night at just shutting it down. I mean, this is just a spectacular performance. I think he locked up coach of the year in my mind. I mean, he had guys like Reek Woolen playing the best that he's played all season, like just all these forces combining to just shut down the 49ers. And what a game.
Yeah, I thought it was such a confirmation of what the Seahawks have built over 2 years, where they're a very complete team. And we sort of said, you need Sam Darnold just to oversee this and play cleanly. And he did. And you got that. And then everything else kind of grows from there and blossoms. And they just dominated. Their offensive line, which is not one of the best O-lines in the league, just was a dominant force last night. And it really hurt the Niners, who have always been on the fringe injury-wise, right? Like D. Winters, Tatum Bethune, Luke Gifford are all out at linebacker, and you've got like a guy that was on a practice squad situation there trying to stop this running attack, and Seattle starts to run the ball the way they did. And I like, for me, you know what I like. And that final drive for Seattle, I know it was a missed field goal, but it was like 16 plays, like 80 something yards, and like eating up the clock and forcing the Niners out of their timeouts. This is the one defense. This is the one coach that I think can spell the Shanahan offense to some degree. And we saw it last night.
Look at his numbers in Santa Clara. So since Mike Macdonald took over as the head coach of the Seahawks, he's 3-0 in that stadium. In those 3 games against the 49ers, he has allowed 13 points per game, and Brock Purdy has a 1-6 touchdown to interception ratio. That's in Santa Clara. That's insane.
And so, yeah, you could look at that and say, well, this isn't a surprise. And certainly people like Justin and I, who went as far to lock up the home 49ers in this game, did not quite work out for us, Justin.
Could see where you're coming from, though, based on a week ago, right?
Well, not just, I mean, put it this way. The last time the Seahawks played a huge division game, it was 2 weeks ago. And they were at home against the Rams, another team with a loaded offense led by a genius mastermind calling plays. And they won that game dramatically. It actually changed the trajectory of the NFC because that allowed them to be in this situation. And of course, now they have the number 1 seed. But their defense in that game gave up 581 yards. And I guess that speaks to, in some way, Conor, how matchups matter. It's not necessarily that the defense was so bad that week and then so amazing this week, although that was the case. It's maybe the Rams are a much more difficult matchup, or maybe they were just a bad matchup that week on a short week. There are a lot of things to go into it. But as much as I respected Seattle going into this game, I just thought that San Francisco was playing at such a high level offensively that you were going to put Sam Darnold in a position where he would have to make plays and throw the ball. And that is what really stunned me about this game and why I was left scratching my head when it was over, that the Niners could never get it going. Now, Trent Williams didn't play. That's a big deal. He had the hamstring. We'll see what happens if he's on the field next week in Philadelphia. And Ricky Pearsall was out again, but Ricky Pearsall's always out, right? But what exactly did you see, Connor, in this game that made San Francisco's offense so uncomfortable? Because Purdy, it wasn't like he was sacked 9 times in the game. You could just say, oh, yeah, he never had a chance. But he was never comfortable. He was skittish, and very rarely were they able to put together any semblance of rhythm. And I know you could point to who knows what happens if Christian McCaffrey doesn't drop that ball. It turns into the interception that seals it in the fourth quarter. But even that came with Purdy being rushed. A defender gets his hands up, it kind of tips off his hands. The pass is a little behind McCaffrey. And then and CMC can't pull it in, right there is a Seattle defender there to squeeze it and essentially end the game. So I just thought it was like a perfect game on so many levels by Seattle, and kind of hard to believe considering what the Niners had been doing.
Yeah, it made me kind of slap myself in the head, and apologies to Seahawks fans. I mean, I think they deserve it, because
I agree.
I can sit here every week and say that the Rams blow me away because of their versatility. The Rams blow me away because of their versatility. What Seattle was in possession of, we saw every week, and it was just laid out in front of us. And it's that ability to play every kind of style of defense from nickel. And no other team can do that. Most teams have to stop the run in base, and then they stop the pass in nickel or dime, or in one of their kind of their lighter packages. And we were, it was evident the whole year. I mean, this is why they drafted the way that they did. This is why they brought together the personnel that they did. This is why they've been playing well all season. And of course, that's how you shut down a run pass, play action heavy Shanahan offense. Is you don't give them anything. You don't give them an edge to exploit, and they just sit in the middle. And I think they're so frustrating for coordinators like Shanahan, who prey on getting those matchups, and he's just not going to get them.
If they're going to play this way on defense, and they have consistently, but then also, because I think what has been hot and cold for periods of the season, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, to run the ball. I thought of Charbonnet especially. I know Kenneth Walker also devastated them on that 3rd and 17 scenario that could have really changed the game. And he runs for 19, and you see, John Lynch up in the booth going crazy because he knows the whole situation's changed. If they add that element to what they are, they're kind of the perfect team to go into deep winter. You've got a stifling defense, a pounding running game, and if you can keep the quarterback without mistakes. And that's the other part, Dan. Sam Darnold, I thought he wasn't perfect. There was one throw, I thought, a couple throws where it was you got to hit that dude. But so what? He didn't make huge mistakes last night. And we were asking even on Thursday, are we going to get that next chapter in the Sam Darnold melts down book? And we didn't. He was clean, and this team compliments him when he's clean.
Yeah, the team covered him. I thought that the team, absolutely the way other great defenses in NFL history. I'm not saying Darnold is like a Trent Dilfer or pick your quarterback who was late period Peyton Manning on the 2015 Broncos. I'm not saying he's that guy, but when you can cover your quarterback like this and put him in a situation where you don't have to put the game on his shoulders, I thought that put them in a very, very, very comfortable place. He was 20 of 26, 198 yards. He averaged over 7.5 yards at attempt. He was sacked just twice. He didn't throw a touchdown, but didn't throw an interception either. And in general, didn't have that meltdown game that you worried about. So I give it up to Darnold. I thought it was interesting after the game, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's been obviously Darnold's guy all year, said after the game, everybody's been talking shit. Everybody. Let me tell you something. Sam led us today. He was everything that we needed. It was awesome to be out there with him. I play for my teammates, and I love playing for 14. And I think that's a great quote. I think it tells you so much about the locker room and what they think about the quarterback. And I think that this Seattle team, if they play this style of football where the defense leads the way and the running game does its damage, and then Darnold is just asked to make plays when necessary, no one's beating them. If they could play this style of football, they are the best team in football. Now, whether you could do that 3 more times remains to be seen, but that's what I took out of the game more than anything else, that the Seahawks in this style of game are the best team in football. And on the other side, the 49ers, I think they could be in a lot of trouble. You go across the country now to Philadelphia to play the defending champion in their building, and not only you beat up, we saw the same thing. Connor, you talked about it on the preview show. What happened with the Vikings last year after they played a win for the conference, and then you lose that game, and then you have to go on the road the next week, beat up, and also maybe lose in a little bit of your your charisma and juice, and you see what happens. I'm very nervous about that game, and if I'm an Eagles fan, I like that I'm getting this version of the Niners.
And the Eagles can not replicate man for man what Seattle can do defensively, but the Eagles have pieces to be versatile in that way. And I think that they can bother San Francisco in the way that Seattle bothered them. Now, you brought up a couple of these examples of maybe a ball goes one way or the other way, or maybe a tip ball pass goes one way or the other way, and the tenor of this thing changes. And I think the Eagles, in a lot of ways, when you press them, I think are less good when their backs are up against the wall offensively and under pressure. But all that said, I mean, I'm with you. I don't love this matchup for the 49ers at all.
But one thing, because like 40 hours ago, we saw the Niners have finally have arrived, and they're a juggernaut, and they're going to go dominate. Like, I think if we get too strong in an anti-Niners sentiment in any scenario, like, they're going to surprise us again. It's Kyle Shanahan. Like,
maybe
I'll wait
maybe
and
lock
see.
him up next week, Mark, if you feel that way.
Whatever I lock up will be a death knell for the civilians from that city.
All right, we'll have plenty of time to preview that game. But yes, San Francisco gets on a plane, and hopefully they get Trent Williams back and Ricky Pearsall on the field, and you get the best version of them against the defending champions. All right, couple more things from that game. I think this was after the interception. Who had the interception? Was it? It was Boye Mafe tipped it. Drake Thomas had the pick, and then they did a cut to our boy John Schneider in the luxury box, and we saw this. I mean, he's a monster. I mean, for the audio audience,
we've all been there. Please,
this is a pit stain at the highest levels. And I just hope that he had a change of shirt for his media availability afterwards.
You know what I just got to say about this too? I've been there, and I guarantee this is the situation. You probably either had a sport coat or an A jacket,
I'll get you.
or an A jacket that you went into this day with, and then it just got too hot in there, and you had to lose it. You know, you couldn't stick with the jacket.
But it's a bad move, Connor, because see, what am I wearing right here, right? No one knows what's happening down here. Nobody knows.
Right, and like
you
the
can't
GM
take it off
of the
on
Seahawks,
public television.
The stakes are very similar to you doing the podcast in your apartment and Schneider's team with the number 1 seed on the line. So
they're higher for me when like someone on Reddit's like, Mark has a problem with his armpits, and it's like I think about it for 4 months. So it's bigger for me, but like, yeah, you're right. Maybe not nationally, but yeah.
And finally, here's George Kittle, who was asked about the Seattle Seahawks smoking cigars in the locker room after the game. I think that's a fire code violation, by the way.
Bad boys.
Celebrating in their locker room, smoking cigars and dancing.
Cool.
Do you take offense to it, or you just say you take your medicine because of what they did?
I would do the same shit. Yeah, I mean, what? They won the division. They got the 1 seed. They won in a rival stadium. Good for them.
Yeah, thank you. Nice try with your leading question, Dick.
Right.
I mean, could you imagine them all huddling outside of the stadium into like a little tented smoking area for them to be like, well, it's not our stadium, so we better make sure
Let's
it's
show
nice
some
and clean.
respect.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit the other Saturday game. This one also had huge implications it ended up not fucking mattering, but that's beside the fact. All right, let's get to it, to Tampa. Yes, the stakes were clear, but also annoyingly murky. Panthers, Bucks. Panthers had a 1-game lead. They win, they clinch the South, and they're in the playoffs as division champions. The Bucks win. They are alive. They both finish at 8-9, the two teams, and then the Bucks simply need the red-hot Saints to upend the Falcons. The Bucks did their job. Baker Mayfield threw a touchdown pass to Cade Otton. Chase McLaughlin kicked 3 field goals. And the Bucks stayed alive with a 16-14 win over the Panthers on a very rainy, ugly afternoon in Florida. In general, I mean, I thought the stakes of the San Francisco-Seattle game made it great theater, but I was a little let down by the game, to be honest with you. Thought it would be, not just because I locked up the team that lost. But I just thought it would be a little more back and forth, and then we get 13-3. Even this game, 16-14, like buyer beware. Not the most exciting game I've watched, and I thought it was fitting for these two teams when it was over, thinking to yourself, one of these teams is playing next week? Doesn't seem right. But the Panthers will move on because, as I said, the other game decided it in the NFC South, and we'll get to it.
I just thought while watching this, like basically for the entire second half, I was trying to come up with a solution for what should happen if you have a sub 500 team that's going to make the playoffs. And the only thing that I could think of is, if that's the case, if you know that the team that's going to represent your division is going to finish sub 500, I think that the final 4 weeks of the season have to end up culminating in a play-in tournament with your entire division. Because at this point, I just want the hottest team. Like, I want a team that's going to be fun and interesting and not any of these teams. And when I saw the rainstorm, I was like, great, Carolina, this is their brand of football. They're going to come in and they're going to mow down Tampa, and then they're going to play really good defense. Like, nobody did anything that they were supposed to do, or resembled a playoff team in any way, shape, or form.
Call it bad luck, call it like general NFL greed. But this was just such a bad look for the league, I thought.
Yeah.
And I understand what they did and why they did it, right? Because you have to peel off some games and feed all these mouths. So you give ESPN both these games, but especially with this game, what you have is a situation where Carolina doesn't take care of their business. And now you're in a situation where neither of these teams can celebrate or be dejected. And then when it's decided 24 hours later in another area of the country, you don't even get any reaction. There's nothing to take out of it. If you were playing these games at the same time in the same window on Sunday, you would at least have the drama of, okay, let's check the scoreboard of what's going on right now in Atlanta. But you didn't have any of that. And so they traded making this thing functional for the dollars that come with the arrangement they have with ESPN. And I just thought it deflated the whole thing. And watching the Saints and Falcons tussle, it just had like a weird empty feeling, like the rest of, I thought, week 18 in general.
The NFL, if anything, they can argue for themselves that they create good storytelling, right? Whether we like how the story ends or who the characters are, that's different. But like, this was faulty plot lining. Like, what happened yesterday should have been a crescendo for, we get it's a bad Bucs team that's faded down the stretch, but they kind of did everything that you would have asked. Mike Evans steps up. Levante David steps up in a big moment. Baker Mayfield has a big moment. Like, the coach is like crooning the team inside the locker room after, and then 24 hours later, it is a meaningless footnote on a very disappointing season. But then it also makes us look at the Panthers in a lesser way too. So it was just like a scheduling tick it was a rare scheduling tick that did not work out. I thought Tampa Bay, in a very much of a weather game, this was a weather game, they finally played the game I wanted them to see when it mattered, and yet it didn't matter. It didn't matter at all.
Yeah, I didn't even come out of the game feeling anything. I like watching the Bucs. It was
well, you were texting us, and I could tell it did not affect you highly.
Well, yeah, I mean, you texted us that you woke up thinking the Bucs were going to the Super Bowl or something, but like, and we saw what happened. I didn't wake up. No, I said I thought like you said you had a dream that the Buccaneers were making a deep run in the playoffs.
But they did their part. But it doesn't matter when it's
right. But it's not like
three
they
teams
played
that
well.
finish 8 and 9 in the AFC.
I didn't think like the Bucs
South.
played some incredible game. I thought this was just two deeply flawed, mediocre football teams. Playing a game that had way more way more stakes to it than it deserved, and it had that deflated feeling. In fact, the Falcons. And we'll get to the Falcons, but they were eliminated from postseason contention December 7th, and they ended up tied for the division. So what does that tell you? It tells you this is one of the weird, most odious divisions in a long time, and it's unfortunate that we have to watch the Panthers next week, and I hope they are quickly dispatched from the playoffs as they deserve to be. But maybe the football gods have such a sense of humor that something crazy will happen. I just don't see it, because the other thing to take out of this was a game that felt like it was played for the division, but then the team that lost ends up winning the division, and so you're left thinking to yourself like, man, what is the Bryce Young experience now that we are 3 years in? Is he the new Dalton line? Is that what we're talking about here? Like, where is this team right now on their development scale? We'll have time to talk about them some more, unfortunately. But this just seems to be a deeply, deeply middle of the road football team that season will continue.
It fits that Dalton is his backup. I mean, it's very poetic.
I'll push back in the sense that this is only Dave Canales' second year. And last year, like, he inherited a disaster of a situation. And on one hand, it's like, I think if this were taking place in another division and kind of out of the general suck of this, and it's almost weird that I feel like in a way we're a little bit harder on the Panthers because they're representing the NFC South in the playoffs, if that makes any sense. Like, I think if they had just had a nice 8 or 9 win season and they weren't going to bother us when the big boy games are on, we'd be like, you know what? That was a nice year too from Dave Canales. And I back up what I said. I really do think he should have been in coach of the year consideration, even though this is a crowded field. And that was a really bad football team. That was one of the worst defenses in NFL history last year. And they took a wide receiver with the first overall pick. It's not like they changed the defense in one offseason. They just got better because of coaching, right?
In my defense, or in counter to your point, none of this was a takedown of Canales.
Sure.
I think I think they're on the right path in that department. Right. I think there are conversations that have to be had at many of the other key positions, including the most important position. Anything else on this game, boys?
I was trying to find, I've been going through like Pro Football Reference, another division where, and the record would be bad typically, 3 teams finish where they all finished 8 and 9. 3 teams finish with identical records. I'm still searching. There are obviously examples of 3 playoff teams or 3 total trash bags, but like 3 8 and 9 teams like this, I think may be a first, but I'm going to continue to.
And if you are curious, you know, yes, they all finished 8 and 9. Carolina wins the division because of a 3-1 record against the other 2 teams, including sweeping the Falcons. And don't get me started on the Falcons, who apparently have fired Raheem Morris, and that came as a surprise to many. And we'll get into any firings that happened during the show or during the show. We're kind of going to hit more on the Monday Black New Horizons Monday program. But think about it. The Falcons come all the way back, win all these games down the stretch. They got beat by the Jets last month, and that's what keeps them out of the playoffs. Ultimately, hard to believe. This was also the final game for Gene Deckerhoff. Gene Deckerhoff, the longtime host of the Bucs. So as we close the books on the 2025 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, very disappointing season for them, we say goodbye to Gene, and here is a clip from the great Deckerhoff.
And Nesbitt Deckerhoff is going to have a husband for weekends. She hadn't had that luxury for a long time. Yeah, honey, I'm coming home. 60 years, 6 months, and 13 days, and it'll be day 14 tomorrow when I get home. Okay? I love you. Go Bucs, and thank you very much, fans. We have been through a lot. Good things, bad things, 2 Super Bowls, division championships, and Dave, you're the best, my friend.
Oh, you too.
Take over from here.
I appreciate everything you've done for me to help me out.
Bucs win, Bucs win, Bucs win. Let's wait and see what happens tomorrow.
I mean, they even this up. They screwed Deckerhoff because we couldn't even get a real result. So Deckerhoff signs off not knowing if it's his last game.
It's not just. I will say, well, no, I could add another comment, but sometimes when you go, I've talked to coaches, when you go back home to the wife after 40 years of being gone on weekends, got to navigate. It's not the easiest. They're not always.
I mean, look at Gene. Gene is going to be a dream.
Absolutely. In his garden, who knows?
He'll be tending garden. And we'll find out if Todd Bowles survives this now that Tampa Bay season ends outside of the postseason. All right, let's get to that game that decided things. Weird, man. You just play these games at the same time. Give us the juice. It's this great old SNL sketch from the 90s where I don't even remember what the premise was, but it's just Adam Sandler saying over and over again, "Who are the ad wizards that came up with that one?"
Well, that was a Seinfeld thing. That was a Seinfeld line. Like,
Was it?
yeah. I mean, maybe borrowed by others, but like that
That's
was
probably why I
Seinfeld-
haven't seen it.
Yeah, he's like, who are the ad wizards who came up with that?
Anyway, so yes, the Falcons do indeed allow the Panthers to advance to the playoffs despite the loss because they hold off the Saints 19-17. The big play in this game was the D. Alford interception in the fourth quarter that shut it down and allowed Atlanta to escape with the win. They finish 8-9, as we said. The Saints, after a strong close to the season, end with a road loss. They're at 6-11. Your thoughts on this one, Connor?
I just tried to put myself in a position where we had the Instagram shots of like Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles said he was watching the game at home, and to have the Saints get like a punt blocked leading to a Falcons touchdown. And, and then all of a sudden that momentum turn where Tyler Shuck goes on this big run at the end of the game and you think maybe everything's going to turn around and then there's the pick. And, it was heartbreaking because New Orleans is getting good enough that they're not out of games. They're in all the games that they're playing now. And Shuck is good enough to keep them in these opportunities. But man, it was, when you look at it through that lens, it was so heartbreaking.
You have to come out of this Saints season, though, from where we were, like maybe pre-Halloween, feeling good, right? Like I feel pretty good about.
I mean, they were the
building.
clear power rankings, not just us, but everyone was saying this is the worst team in football. And then let's be fair, and Justin, put on your earmuffs on this one. Like Shuck's the best rookie quarterback in the league this year, and it wasn't even close. I mean, they come out of this potentially not only having their answer at quarterback, they also have a guy that's under contract at a very, very manageable number. So you can, because he's a non-first round pick, you can build around this quarterback and give him a real chance to develop into a Pro Bowl level player. I think there's a lot to like about Shuck's game. All due respect, Justin.
I mean, by far is a stretch. Cam Ward looked like you have to watch the tape. The numbers aren't going to tell the story on this one, but
okay.
I'd love to see Cam Ward with Ellen Moore.
If you could just set him up with the New Orleans Saints.
Ellen Moore.
Well, a good play caller and a wide receiver one would be at least a nice start.
Okay. Good counter, Justin, but my point stands. Thoughts, Mark?
26-year-old. He's like a veteran already.
Zero star, the Tyler Shuck story.
Hey, Tyler Shuck looks good. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but
like
saying
all-star.
by far the best. I think he is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, though.
Okay. Thank you for backing my point there.
I think, like you said, we'll dig into the Falcons, but it's this collection of talent that it feels like who can flip the switch consistently on this team. Like the rest of the teams in that division, it's week after week if you don't know what you're going to get. And even today, I found it concerning for the Bucs that or for everyone involved that Kirk Cousins woke up ill. They were like, he woke up ill, which I never know what that means with a player. When they say he woke up ill, it's Kirk Cousins. Like, do you have a death-defying flu?
I have a guess. Because they're just like us. He's either throwing up or shitting his brains out.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
And 12 seconds into the game, I just looked down on my screen with the quad box that I have here, and like Cam Jordan is destroying him. And I thought this could be good for Tampa Bay, but it ultimately was not.
So here's the thing. And after the game, Drake London had some strong comments, including, I want Ra back with all my heart, Raheem Morris. He's not going to be back. And I find this a little bit interesting, Connor, that Falcons not only can Raheem Morris, but also general manager Terry Fontenot, after two straight, obviously disappointing seasons. What's been what have we been talking about around the Falcons, right? The last couple of weeks during this surge. Wow, this is a really good roster. They just got to put it together and maybe get a little more consistency, obviously, in health from the quarterback position, which they haven't had in either of these 2 years. So losing the GM, yes, I guess it keeps you in line. And again, we'll get into this more, but I'm just curious your thoughts. Were you surprised that both of them went here, or did you kind of expect that if this happened?
So when I was doing my final sort of run-throughs with people around the league, everybody seemed to be in agreement that Fontenot was going to go, but that Raheem Morris had kind of waged a campaign to possibly save himself. And I think that registered as something of a surprise for, those of us who track the industry as closely as we do. But I think it is either one of two things. One, Atlanta had a guy, maybe somebody that popped during their the last time, not Bill Belichick, who they might be interested in this time around, or I think that they probably just realized the difficulty in building a team with a mismatched GM, because Fontenot did inherit Raheem because he was with Art Smith before that. Two very different coaches, very different styles. And I think especially when you have that Matt Ryan and you have the search firm in there, they're always going to recommend a clean sweep, right? And having a new GM come in with a new coach. And so I think that's what ultimately.
And this like Sportology, Arthur Blank adjacent like search firm has helped him with his soccer teams, and the Matt Ryan of it all. It just suggests like flush out everyone. But I would argue that for all their issues, the Falcons under Fontenot have drafted good players, and that's why we look at this team that way.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm wondering if this was the right move. And I also wonder if we're 18 months clear now about roughly 18 months clear of the decision to sign Kirk Cousins to that massive contract and then draft Michael Penix in the first round a month later or whatever it was. And then we are about 9 months clear of the decision to trade your first round pick. So whoever the new GM is, congratulations, the Rams are taking your spot in the first round. Those were, now you could argue that the Falcons, their pass rush as an example, got a lot better this year, and that's what they
nearly set their franchise record for sacks.
Right. But at the end of the day, not having that first round asset was widely ridiculed at the time as being an overpay. And after another playoff free season, they don't have a first round pick to build upon. You could look at these as both bad misses.
This is a team that reminds me a lot of the Jaguars, perhaps without the prestige of the quarterback and the expectations of the quarterback. But Trent Baalke put together this roster, first with Urban Meyer and then after that with Doug Peterson, where there's all these really good players. And we're like, God, Devin Lloyd's good and Trevor Lawrence is good. And, Brian Thomas is good. And like all these players are good, but we got to fire the GM. And now Trent Baalke was hard to work with and he was a difficult character. And I think, different in a lot of ways. But Terry Fontenot falls into the same kind of interesting category where it's like, wow, Bijan Robinson's good and Drake London's good. And all these other guys are pretty good. We got to fire the general manager, And it's like one of those things that it is hard to put your finger on, but I do think his fatal flaw was not signing enough of those pieces to tie it all together. Like you do have something of an all-star team of skill position players, but there isn't that mortar on that roster. And that's part of his job too.
And I wasn't a big fan of the Raheem Morris hire when it happened. That obviously didn't work out either. And at the end of the day, if you want to be pessimistic as a Falcons fan, not that you want to be, but if you're thinking it, it's like they always do head scratching shit. It's like every 6 to 8 months, they do something really weird. And hopefully this isn't the latest thing they did weird, which is fire the guy that's built a pretty good core of a roster in the name of synergy with the next coach. We'll see. All right, let's take a break and we will continue our Week 18 travels.
Who are the ad wizards who came up with this one?
Sorry, the correct answer is clap on, clap off. I'm watching TV. Every time someone gets a round of applause, my garage door goes up and down.
There you go. There you go. It was Jerry Seinfeld as the host of Saturday Night Live in a game show. One of the great tropes of SNL is when in doubt, roll out a game show sketch with Adam Sandler giving Seinfeld-like answers. And Connor, I could hear your laughs from New Jersey.
It's just nails on a chalkboard hearing that guy talk. My God.
This is one of the earliest Connor podcast hot takes that we have is that you found Seinfeld to.
Well, how about
I do feel like though my overarching take was that Larry David is hilarious and was the only reason that show is funny. And he has gone on to produce an even funnier show without Seinfeld, and I think is proven to be the creative engine behind that show, whereas Seinfeld has gone on to produce a shitty children's movie and a Netflix thing about how cool his cars are that no one gives a about. So, I mean...
Well, that's not a bad show, but okay.
And also you presuppose that Larry David was solely responsible for the success of Seinfeld, which is a silly thing to say, but we can't... we don't have time to really litigate this right now.
That's why I like dropping these things and then walking away, because I know that there's no time to disprove everything.
I'm sure you've had some joy, is that he has lost a lot of... in the cultural discourse for some views on some world situations and other things. Seinfeld takes a lot of heat now in different corners of the internet, which I imagine you would take some joy out of that, at least.
Didn't he have like a 16-year-old girlfriend too?
Well, no, he married I believe it was.
I don't think he ever married Shoshana Lowenstein. I don't think he did, actually.
You guys go on. I'll look that up because I think he did.
He was 38, which I am now. And she was 17, which if I tried to do that today.
But you know what's funny? Maybe not funny, but they would be on the cover of People magazine, and it'd be like, "Oh, the funniest couple in Hollywood." It's like, uh-oh.
You are correct. He had a 4-year relationship with her. And
right.
Connor, I understand that that's going to draw a lot of judgment and blame in your household. I don't agree with it either, but it's like... Oh, she wasn't his exact age. What are we doing over here?
No.
Please.
A lot of these things tend to reflect back on Sessler's own situation, it seems.
There's such a difference.
Why isn't she older than me and has a doctorate? What?
All right, let's go. Focus up. All right, before we get to the rest of the games...
That's us cutting Connor off on his point, before he wanted to.
I feel like this would be a perfect time for the last time, the Marc Sessler theme of the week. Hit it, Mark.
Absolutely. Let's
Week
go.
18.
Here it is. Week 18 theme of the week is, Justin, leaving grandma's house for the strip club.
With Shoshana Lowenstein. Leaving grandma's house for the strip club. All right. Well, I would say, I'm going to try to piece this together, Connor. The grandma's house is the regular season. The strip club is, at least for a Sessler type, is this wonderful place for adventure and the unknown that represents the playoffs. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, one place you're just you're eating old Werther's originals on a dusty recliner, and then on the other, your White Snake is playing, and you're getting ridden around with a leash and spanked in front of your friends,
eating shrimp cocktail at the buffet.
Hell yeah!
You're not wrong, but it is literally the theme of the week, and I thought that this was one week where the NFL left us a little adrift with 7 hours of football, and it was kind of for me, I have these nice memories, but they're inactive memories where I was just asleep on a couch with 8 blankets at my grandma's house. Then it's something like, let's get up and drive back to home or whatever. We're moving somewhere better. Today specifically was a little sleepy for the NFL, and I think they couldn't be thrilled with the sleepy nature of it.
I think a lot of us, maybe if you had 2 great fun sets of grandparents, congratulations. But I find most people might have one grandparent set that's it'd be fun going over to that grandma's house, and then the other one's woof, this is going to be another rough Easter. You know what I mean? So we were at the other one. We were at the Easter grandparents' house this Sunday. Okay, all right, I buy into that. All right.
I feel like I hit maybe a single or a double there at best. I don't see a lot of enthusiasm there, but it's how
what
I
it
felt.
was. I liked it. It was like a ground ball in the hole between shortstop and third. It got underneath the shortstop's glove, and the announcer was like, "I don't know. We're going to see what the official scorer does with that one." And because it was the home team hit the ball, they gave him a hit. So it is a hit. Could have won either way.
I'll be hearing about it later, no doubt about it. So.
All right, let's roll through these games and anything else in terms of news around these teams we'll hit as well. Start in Chicago at Soldier Field, where the Bears are closing out their regular season ahead of their return to the playoffs, and the Lions, still hard to believe, we're playing out the string. Give them the Stevie Nicks treatment. Feels strong, but listen, you're going to find out there's not a lot of great hammer droppers in this one. Jared Goff led 5 scoring drives, and Jake Bates, after another crazy fourth quarter by the Chicago Bears, it seems like an every week thing this year, where they score 16 unanswered points to wipe out a 16-0 deficit. They can't get the last stop, and Jake Bates pipes one from 42 as time expired, so the Lions survive. They win 19-16. I kind of like the move that you saw at the end of this game, Justin, where, of course, the Lions are deeply disappointed by how the season turned out. But just a great celebration with Jake Bates jumping up and down, pumping his fists like they just won a playoff game, everybody gathering around him. The season's over. The game means nothing, but the Lions won their final game. They finished with the winning record, and it's a nice show of sportsmanship that, this team, they wanted to go out strong, and they did.
Yeah, and I expected that that's how the Lions would come out and play in this game, because that's what Dan Campbell, we heard him talk all last week about how bummed he was to not be in the playoffs this year. And I thought they would come out with that fire and take it out on a division opponent who's playing to secure the 2 seed. But I thought the Lions would play like this. They played like a team that maybe in another universe where division winners don't go to the playoffs, they take Carolina's spot and would give us a better game next weekend. That's not how it works, though. I enjoyed watching the Lions play like the Lions, even if their red zone offense couldn't find the end zone very often. This was a fun back and forth game in the fourth quarter. It was a snoozer for 3 quarters, but that's sort of just Chicago Bears football this season, I guess.
Yeah, the Bears will host the Green Bay Packers, as we said at the top of the show, in the wild card game next weekend.
Yes. So the Bears, this isn't the way you necessarily want to go into the postseason, losing 16-0 in the fourth quarter, but they did turn it on. And I really thought they were going to go down and win this game, because you mentioned they couldn't get the last stop. They couldn't get the last stop, but the second to last stop they did get when Kevin Byard picks off Jared Goff on a 3rd and 20 heave, that you're wondering why the Lions don't just want to try to settle for 3 points there and take a lead that late in the game. They instead go to try to convert a 3rd and 20, and Byard picks it off. And I thought the Bears are going to drive down the field and kick a field goal to win this as time expires. And of course they go 3 and out and give the ball right back to Detroit. But it's sort of a tune-up game. Like, I don't know how seriously Chicago maybe took this one. Maybe it's not for me to project. Luther Burden wasn't involved until the fourth quarter, and he's been great for the last month or so. And then he as soon as he gets involved, the Bears offense wakes up. They convert 2 2-point conversions to get back into the game, but just can't do enough to come away with a win.
If you're Ben Johnson, though, wouldn't you kind of want, and this is going to sound ridiculous and I'll probably piss off Packers fans, but wouldn't you want Green Bay? Because I think that there's a lot of advantages to this. You've already seen the team twice. You've been in the division. You know that the Packers are going to have one or possibly both of their coordinators interviewing for head coaching jobs, whereas none of you, Declan Doyle might get a head coaching interview at this point, but he's very young and he's not a play calling coordinator. You're good. You're sound if you're Chicago and you know that opponent really well. And it's why would you strive at that point? You're probably pretty comfortable with what's coming to town at this point.
Well, and narratively, I don't put a lot on this, but Ben Johnson has gotten attention over and over for name dropping LaFleur when he opened his career in Chicago about the fact that he enjoys beating him. So it's the last time they played in the playoffs, I was thinking about this, Dan, it was the first year that we were at NFL.com. It was Cutler versus Aaron Rodgers, and I think Cutler got hurt in that game. But it's been that long, and so it's the perfect 2 teams to meet for a 3rd time in the playoffs.
Oh no! Jeez, we're having another rough week. Cessdog, I kind of liked your pick here. Felt like the Bears had something to play for. They're at home, and yet you go down once more.
I thought so, but I can't, I have no control over anything. So it's I'm just you're watching your afternoon fade away into something dark and deceptive.
It's like Shoshana Lowenstein's parents in 1996.
Yeah, it's
like,
very
what are we
much
gonna
like
do?
her father.
Guy's like the most famous sitcom actor in the world. Anyway, last note on this. This really surprised me because I would have thought it already happened, but I guess it didn't. Caleb Williams threw for 212 yards in this game, finishes the season with 3,942, a perfectly respectable number. It surpassed Eric Kramer's franchise mark of 3,838 yards passing in 1995. But yes, the Bears remain the only team in NFL history without a 4,000-yard passer. So we'll have to wait another year. It don't matter. The Bears are playing playoff football next week, and we'll be all over that. And yet, with that loss, the Bears clinched the number 2 seed. Why? What happened in Philadelphia? For the Eagles, it was another opportunity for a tune-up against a lesser opponent down the stretch, and coming off one of their best wins of the season against the Bills. And yet, in a game in which Jalen Hurts and other starters did not play, they were unable to finish out the regular season the way they wanted to. The Washington Commanders come back with 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to win 24-7. As the Eagles' second stringers could not get it done, and as a result, the Eagles will open the playoffs at home next weekend against the Niners. So that is a frustrating loss, but the Eagles fall in one spot to number 3 seed is not the end of the world, and it's also, you could make the case, Mark, like we just talked about at the top of the show or earlier in the show, with the Niners, the state they're in right now, coming off that emotional and physically difficult loss to the Seahawks, maybe not the worst opponent to get. So you just play the team in front of you, and it will be the Niners at home for the defending champions.
Yeah, it feels like this is the month where a number of coaches, whether verbally or non-verbally, sort of just said, I'm not worried about seeding. Like, we're just going to go do what we need to do. I mean, this was hardcore late August football to me visually. It was Josh Johnson, who I believe won his second game in 16 years as a starter. Whoa. It's a weird stat. Against Tanner McKee. And I like Tanner McKee. I do, but it's like you're still the Eagles rolling out Tanner McKee, and Tank Bigsby was good as well. And it's like you're trying to hang on for a win. But when you do this, it's unpredictable. And Washington, who keeps hanging around in these games, right? Found a way to take this thing at the end. But there's not much you can take away from the Eagles side on this, because most everyone who matters. Devontae Smith made a couple plays early, then they just kept pulling people in waves. So it's the backup version of the Eagles losing to a Commanders team that's going to go through a lot of changes. And
even that, Devonta Smith, I believe he was playing because they wanted to get him to 1,000 yards.
Yes.
Which he did. And Connor, I'd love to just tee off on Nick Sirianni whenever I can, but I'm not going to in this case. This is a decision he had to make. And he made the decision to use this week essentially as a mini bye for his most important players. And for all the things I'll say critically about Sirianni, the guy's now been through the wars, especially this time of the year. And for him and his staff to decide it was more important to get that rest. They could have gotten the best of both worlds if they closed this game out. They didn't, but they're probably in a better spot to defend their title than they were if they would have just went all out to get the W.
I think it's the one advantage, and it was certainly a more pronounced advantage last year when he had Kellen Moore, or a couple years before that when he had Shane Steichen as his offensive coordinator, to allow him to do the CEO stuff, because this is kind of when it comes to a head, is like, how many conversations are you just having with the 30th to the 50th guys on your roster and just kind of taking the temperature of things? And granted, those aren't the guys that you're sitting, but how in-depth are the conversations that you're having with your starters, your leadership council, you understanding that whether these guys want to play or not? The fact that last year when he sat Saquon Barkley before he broke the NFL rushing record, that turned out to be a non-story. And maybe in 30 other markets, that's something where that running back is still pissing and moaning and kicking a can around the facility, complaining about it. But I do think in those situations, he's very good. He has good emotional intelligence.
Well, okay. Agree to disagree. Finally, Diana Rossini reported that offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury of the Commanders is expected to field head coaching interviews from around the league and that Washington could move on from him, whether or not he takes a head coaching job elsewhere. Real quick on this, Connor, that really surprised me because obviously he resurrected his reputation during Washington's run to the NFC title game with Jaden Daniels last year. Is there some type of schism behind the scenes with Quinn, or is this one of those things where there's an idea in the league or with the Commanders that maybe people caught up to Kingsbury quickly here? Why would they ever let him out the door in a season that was basically wrecked by Jaden Daniels not being on the field?
I think that there's a way that Cliff likes to play, and I think that the Commanders probably just have a longer term view of Jaden Daniels, and my guess is that they're probably a little bit skittish about the fact that he got hurt this year, which again had nothing to do with Cliff's offense. But I do think Cliff's offense likes to play with a lot of tempo. It caught the league by surprise last year, and maybe that's something that they want to curtail moving forward. That said, I think if you're drafting a quarterback out of college now, like I'm looking at the Raiders as a projected opening at this point, that's a guy that I would bring in for an interview tomorrow. I think that Cliff's a really good coordinator. I think he's a good play caller, and he's good with quarterbacks. But this could happen elsewhere. I mean, look at the Buffalo Bills too. Joe Brady is a guy that if you're putting together a head coaching list at the middle of the season, you're like, yeah, that guy's probably on it. But in the same vein, if they have 3 or 4 bad games, he might not be the offensive coordinator of the Bills anymore.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think what's really interesting about the coaching carousel this year is, yes, there's been talk that less coaches can get fired this year than usual because of there not being so many great options on the open market. But then you have a lot of coaches, or not a lot, but several prominent coaches that are longtime coaches, whether it's a McDermott, a Harbaugh, a Tomlin, that you're kind of waiting and seeing how the playoffs or the end of the regular season plays out. It's very interesting, the picture this year in a different way from that perspective. All right, let's now move to a game here in Los Angeles in which the head coach took a different approach than Sirianni. Yeah, the Rams didn't have a ton to play for on Sunday, and yet Sean McVay decided he wanted to play his guys. So Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, and the rest of the Rams headed out on the field and took care of business, 37-20 over the woebegone Arizona Cardinals. The Rams finished the season 12-5, and they get the Panthers in Carolina. Panthers who beat them, by the way, on November 30th, you might recall. But we'll see if that is going to happen again for the Rams. I'll point out in this particular affair that the final score is a little bit misleading because the Rams were kind of trudging their way through this game early on until Puka Nacua made a one-handed touchdown grab just before halftime to give them a little bit of breathing room, and then they were able to kind of take it home, especially in the fourth quarter when they had 2 unanswered touchdowns. So it got to 37-20, but the Rams looked still, even in this game, not quite the best version of themselves. So I guess my takeaway on this game, Sessler, and there's not a lot to take away from it, but my takeaway from this game is while they did get a win here, the Rams in the last 3 weeks going into the playoffs aren't in full stride. So maybe getting the worst team in the playoffs, the Panthers, is perfect for this team that still is figuring out a few things as there's a couple issues in the engine at the moment.
That is a total coup d'etat to get the Panthers. And I'm not dismissing the Panthers either, but just of all these draws and how this could have shaped out for LA outside of getting the number 1 seed, this is great. I also think that, like, watching, there was the moment where Puka Nacua looked like he had scored the touchdown by blasting through Budda Baker, who is an awesome player, and then got it on a 50-50 ball with a one-handed grab like seconds later. Like, this guy can win them playoff games. Like, there's just sort of a will to the Rams, and I trust them to work their way out of what I watched with you too, where it was like they weren't totally on today, and I'm okay with that. Like, you got a great playoff draw. And you go from here. I think the Rams are one team I trust to figure out within a week some of their issues.
Yeah, I'm with you in the sense, Sessler, that I absolutely have the Rams on my short list of the teams I think can win the Super Bowl. Still, I just think they have to clean things up a little bit. Stafford, by the way, who I think and the Desert said the same thing, fell behind Drake May in the MVP race. He did throw 4 more touchdowns in this game, putting the final touches on an incredible year in which he threw for nearly 4,500 yards with 42 touchdowns and just 8 interceptions. And he gets out of the regular season healthy, obviously, which is a huge thing as well, as is Puka Nacua, who ends the season. He had 10 catches in this game for just 76 yards. But yes, a touchdown, as I remarked as well. He ends the season with 129 catches, and he is locked and loaded to be a major difference maker for the Rams. Along those same lines, Trey McBride, who was tied with Nacua for the NFL leading catches going into this game at 119, he finishes with 7. So Trey McBride finished with 126 catches this season, guys. That's one of the greatest seasons in the history of the position. 1,200 yards, 11 touchdowns, 10 yards a catch. And we got this little great sideline moment in this game picked up by what do they call that, Mike? What do they call those? Parabolic. Oh, I love that word.
Yeah.
The parabolic mics.
Scientific.
All right, sound up. Turn up your volume. This is fun.
The set fires and wide open. Wow. It's McBride. Oh, motherfucker! I'm him!
Did he say boom, motherfucker? I'm him?
I'm him. Yes. Yeah.
After leaping over that same defender, if I recall it visually.
He is unbelievable. I mean, what a player. Michael Wilson had more big plays in this game. Marvin Harrison Jr. In street clothes in this game. We'll get to the Cardinals. Rap Sheet and Pelissero are both reporting the Cardinals are leaning toward keeping Jonathan Gannon. I think that's an incredibly stupid move. I think Gannon is terrible, and he's proven it in these 2 seasons as a guy that's not somebody. But I guess they're going to pin it on Kyler, and they're going to get Kyler out of that building, hell or high water, and let Gannon pick a quarterback. So maybe, Connor, does this one fall under like the Jets as an example and other teams where, maybe we'd like to move on, but we don't necessarily see a clear upgrade, so we're going to ride it one more year? Is he kind of in that boat?
Well, there's 2 things here. And one, I'm glad that you brought that up. I actually wrote about this before we started taping today, but a lot of people are saying, well, it's just time to stand pat because we don't know if there's no Mike Vrabel out there. That's a bullshit way of thinking. Nobody was doing backflips, including the Seahawks fan base, when they hired Mike McDonald. Do you know why they hired Mike McDonald? Because he beat the Seahawks' ass. John Schneider got obsessed with him, started learning about him, studying him, brought him in and interviewed him and figured out that the guy's a genius. That's what you need to do as a head coach or as an owner or as a GM or as someone in that hiring position. That's what the Jets should be doing right now. That's what the Cardinals should be doing right now. But everyone's sitting there and saying, oh, well, Mike Vrabel's not out there. Do you guys follow football? Do these owners and these people who hire do they follow football? There's a lot of great coordinators, really smart people out there. John Mara had a running list in his desk and still does for head coaches, prospective head coaches that impress him. And I think good owners do that. Good GMs do that.
John Mara also could hire the right coach at some stage in the game here.
Yeah.
Well, John Mara's dealing with a lot right now.
Right.
Beyond the New York Giants. But it's such an odd perception that you keep hearing, like, oh, there's just not like a home run hire. Like I'll point to this is
you don't want to do the work. That's
right.
Like do the work.
This is like someone that's deep into the NFL films archive. But the first season of, I think it was in season Hard Knocks, they did on the Rams, and it was the Jeff Fisher season, the one where he got fired, and they show him he's holding his poodle, waving goodbye to the team as it's driving off on the bus to their next game after he got let go, and that season ends with this like little bit of a weird looking young guy coming into the one of the conference rooms shortly after being hired, and it was Sean McVay. And it wasn't like this like hammer drop by the Sable gang that, look at this, we're ending the episode with the great Sean McVay is entering to save the Rams. It was like, no, this was just this guy that has a reputation inside the league as being really bright, and maybe we hit on it, and then he turns out to be a guy that is seen as one of the great coaches of his era. Like, don't don't just because there's not some recycled veteran like a Mike Vrabel not there doesn't mean he's not out there.
It's like the Andy Reid thing comes along once every decade, where a great coach that you know is great, that's been to title games and Super Bowls, just runs his course. But every other example, like Mike McDonald, Dave Canales, Nick Sirianni.
Well, the other reality, though, like before we blow smoke up everyone's butthole, like 80% of these guys utterly fail, and we are in a hiring process where the average fan is clinging to what they know about the name. And when you try to tell me like Matt Nagy is the hot coaching candidate, it's like, I don't want to go to that school dance.
But that's not what we're talking about. Not necessarily talking about a recycled coach. It's like the idea,
but just in names in general. But it's like no one here knows about coaches they've never seen head coach outside of deeper information.
Right.
I'm sorry, Justin just blew a massive smoke ring out of his nose and mouth as you were landing the plane on that point,
did.
Mark. Yeah, can we get an instant replay of that for the audience
screen.
on YouTube?
I'm off screen.
Not off our screen.
We're dealing with that, but it's not the sexiest.
Mark, listen, you're a
cycle.
Browns fan. I'm a Jets fan. I get it because we're so used to the idea that you're going to not find the right guy and hire the wrong guy, or even if you hire the right guy, you'll f it up anyway. But until you actually do the work, it's still you have to keep looking, just like you have to keep drafting and looking for the quarterback until you find it, and resting. And we'll get to it when we get to the Jets. The idea of resting with a guy that you have a pretty strong feeling is not the guy because you don't see the quote unquote obvious replacement out there in the open market it's a loser mentality.
Well, I'm not. First of all, I'm not debating you on that, but it does feel like you could get to the point where you have someone that has met 22 people on, I don't even know, Match.com. I don't know what sites there are anymore, Tinder, whatever. But and it's like none of this has worked. But let's get geared up to go get number 23. Let's do our research. It's like, no, it's like I am at the point where get it right or you're going to lose me as a human. I'm a little frustrated about my own team. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say
I'm a little annoyed because they're going to fire a guy that's going to get hired in 1 second by another team and go to the AFC title game.
Mark, you have my empathy at the highest levels. I understand your frustration.
Sure,
We're both
I didn't
in
need
very
for that
difficult
to explode
situations.
right there. But yeah.
All right, let's head to Minneapolis for another game that I would imagine the NFL thought was going to have huge stakes in Week 18, but it did not. Ooh, is this the song we like? Is this the one we got into last week?
Pretty ravey.
I don't know if this was the one we got into.
Gravy gave me a look like, what
too.
was last week? We did a show? No, this isn't it. I don't think so.
No, this one's good though too. This one slaps.
Yeah, turn this up in my headphones. This has got a little Ninja Gaiden energy to it. Oh, yeah, this is it. Turn it up.
This game gets this?
Gotta beat up the beat to this.
Nine.
God, this goes hard. This goes way too hard for Vikings 16, Packers 3, Brosmer v. Toon. What a joke. What a joke. Week 18, NFL. They're like, oh, we want to add another game to the regular season. What? What are you talking about? What? Shut up!
Super Bowl in March.
JJ McCarthy. Pretty good in the first half of this one. Then guess what? He got hurt. That's what he does. But luckily, fullback C.J. Ham was there. He rushed for a touchdown. And the Vikings finished their season with another win, 16-3, as I said. And they go all the way up to 9-8 after, 5-game winning streak to end the season? Pretty good. They got a good head coach. KOC took a little fire. They did botch the quarterback position, but, I mean, what a credit to KOC and, of course, Brian Flores. The Packers finished 9-7-1. They were locked into the 7th seed regardless, Essie. So this game meant zilch to them other than getting healthy for next week.
Yeah, it was one last look at J.J. McCarthy, and I thought it ended poorly from a optics standpoint where he had come in with the hand injury, and he basically had to exit the competition and say to his teammates, like, I can't finish this game.
Yeah, I saw that tweet.
And you can frame that a certain way. I'm choosing not to, because it's like you got to be smart. There's no reason with a team to be out of the playoffs and exacerbate that injury. But he led 3 scoring drives of like 8, 14, and 9 plays before that in the first half. I thought he played competently. There was one pass he made near the goal line to Ben Sims where it's like, okay, I see it. You have the chance. At times,
McCarthy?
JJ McCarthy was just a beautiful, beautiful pass, and that's what set up
somebody
the
in there that could stay on the field and play. I mean,
I get that.
Are we gonna...
I get that. I'm trying to point out. I'm trying to just be balanced because it's like a lost week 18 game. But
I know. I'm just saying, he did have some moments down the stretch, but there's so many red flags around this guy that I think one of the obvious moves that's going to happen for the Vikings is they're going to get a new quarterback, or they'll have a mock competition in the summer between McCarthy and someone else. And it's just like, who's that going to be? Is it going to be someone like a Mac Jones? Could it be somebody like a Lamar Jackson? There's a lot
Aaron
that
Rodgers,
could happen.
Kirk Cousins.
There's all different routes they can go, but there will be someone there. Brian Flores, we talked about on Thursday, and Connor spoke about it well. Brian Flores' contract is up. It's unknown where he's going to be coaching next season. Jay Glazer also reported. I talked about some established head coaches who their jobs could be in jeopardy depending on how things shake out. Glazer said that Matt LaFleur is in a time will tell category when discussing his possible head coaching changes. LaFleur's contract is up after the 26th season. That would be the other thing I would say, like some of these guys who are established coaches that whether it's a McDermott or a LaFleur or a Harbaugh, like if you have a guy like a Gannon or a Glenn or a whatever, and it's like one of those guys all of a sudden pops up on the market, are you really going to be sitting on your hands? That's another part of this conversation.
Well, that's why I don't know why teams aren't, and maybe they are, but when I checked in with people around the league, they were just talking about how impossible it would be for teams to trade coaches, and specifically with Kevin Stefanski. But if you're hearing all this and you're the Cardinals, like, aren't you calling the Packers and being like, what do you guys want for him? Like Matt LaFleur, we'll take him. Like,
but isn't Stefanski, not to go down Cleveland's wormhole, but like, isn't the Stefanski thing, or when your coach traded, like it feels like it's coming from the coach?
To some degree, yes. I just feel like a lot of these teams, if you're cold enough on a guy where you're thinking that you're going to move on with him from him the next year, and you're going to go into this offseason with LaFleur and this complicated contract dispute, and he's not going to want to be a lame duck, and if the season doesn't end well, just trade him and get a first or a second round pick for him. I mean, like, what else are you going to do?
All right, let's move to the Meadowlands, where the Giants were doing... I used to look up to that team. I used to be the Jet fan, just a little brother looking up at the Giants. What if we had an operation like the New York Giants? They can't do anything right anymore.
It's amazing.
Let's talk about this.
Used to have breakfast at Trump Tower too. Things change in New York. Like it's not so.
Of course, every morning. Take the limo to Trump Tower. Get the Cobb salad. Anyway, the Giants won again. There was a scenario, and we'll get to the Raiders. There's a scenario where the way things shake out today, that the Giants have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. They just have to make sure they don't beat the Cowboys. And what do? They beat up on the Cowboys. How do you do that? 34-17. How's Jackson Dart playing in this game? You have a chance to get the number 1 pick, or even if you don't get the number 1 pick, you'd be the number 2 pick, and then you could have a sad bastard team like the Jets pathetically looking for a quarterback, and they could trade you all these assets that they just got to move into your spot. Just don't win. Don't play anybody, New York Giants, but they do, and they double up the Cowboys, who tank in their own way down the stretch to finish 7-9-1. The Giants finish at 4-13, but they drop, if you'd believe this, all the way from potentially number 1 in the draft to number 5 now. We'll get to the final draft order at the end of the show. But Justin, I just couldn't believe it that they did this. I guess I could believe the way the Cowboy season ended, because despite the heaping praise from me and others on the show in November, they cratered down the stretch of this season.
Yeah, can I start on the Cowboys? Because
sure.
Jerry Jones said something interesting earlier in the week. I think it was on the radio, or maybe it was somewhere else. But he said if we finish 8-8-1, I'll consider that a winning season, which it, of course, is not. It's a neutral season. And maybe Brian Schottenheimer.
I've got no idea where he is right now.
At halftime, facing a 16-10 deficit, maybe Schottenheimer said, it's going to be more embarrassing for us than anything else if we finish 8-8-1 and parade it as a winning season. So let's just get Joe Milton in there. Let's get a better draft pick. Let's throw this game away. We don't really care about it. Get a look at this young quarterback who could be our backup. Milton was okay. I mean, he's not I don't think he's a very good quarterback, but he completed over 50% of his passes with only one interception. But the Giants ran away from this game in the second half. And I also think Dak Prescott said something interesting after the game, which is that this is the first season of his career that he feels like his personal performance didn't impact winning or losing, because their offense was so good, but it didn't matter most weeks because their defense was so bad. So Cowboys got a lot to figure out on that side of the ball. Jordan Schultz was reporting that they are likely going to move on from DC Matt Eberflus in his one season there after a failure of a tenure as the Bears head coach. So see what the Cowboys do on that side of the ball.
I love how Jerry's like not even committing to that at this point. He's just like, well, there's a lot of problems. It's like, no, that's pretty much the big one,
Right.
Like that's like that was the worst season in Cowboys defensive history.
I mean, do you think, like, I just read this article. I was having trouble falling asleep last night, and I was on New York Times website, and I found this article about Biden and the disastrous debate he had with Trump last June. And the Biden camp was so afraid, not just of his mental welfare and his sharpness level and how they wanted to navigate this election that was slipping away, that they were actually completely like sheltering him off from any contact with anyone, to the point where he wasn't even aware in conversations with Nancy Pelosi that the polls had taken a wild turn away from him and toward Trump, because he had been so siphoned off. Like, is that Jera with the Cowboys? Do you think like Jera actually knows how bad things are gotten, or does he have people around him that are shielding him from the real dirty business that he has around this Dallas team?
Not to that degree. I don't think anyone has that much, he doesn't have people pulling him away to that degree. I see what you're saying, but
because like a Jera, maybe it helps everyone around him to not know how bad things are, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
But he does more media than anyone associated with the Cowboys. Like, he's their PR and vocal.
But he's operating with on his own set of facts. Like, for instance, 8-8-1 is a winning season. You know what I mean?
That's true. Is he disassociated from what we would consider successful reality for a football team? Without question, he is.
How about reality?
Without question, to some degree. Well, what reality? He's not lived in the reality that we would understand for probably 45, 50 years. So
yeah, he's an older man. I just, yeah.
Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you?
Well,
I mean, I don't think you're an idiot. I think he's just an older man that needs. They need to come at this thing from a different angle, because it's another lost season.
They do feel
Cowboys.
the same year after year, don't they? They just feel the same.
Yeah. And I will mention, because we said that John Mara, the owner of the Giants, is going through some very serious health issues right now. He's battling cancer, as I understand it. And he was in the locker room after the game. They gave him the game ball, and I mean, there is a very serious and real life backdrop to what's going on around the Giants right now. So I want to kind of separate those two things from the conversation. But yeah, it does also impact, I guess, decision making around the organization as Mike Kafka wraps up his interim coach title, and the Giants have to figure out what's next for the organization. I mean, I was texting with some Giant fans buddies today, and it was like, listen, the season can't be a total disaster, because we got Dart, and Dart proved himself as a potential long-term solution at quarterback. So, but everything else was as bad as it could possibly be. So, yeah. Oh, here's a tweet.
Can they spell? Like, can your friends who are Giants fans, can they spell very well?
What?
I never know with Giants fans.
Wow.
Wow.
Sessler.
I don't know.
They're well educated, my friends. All right, here's a tweet just to underscore the Giants. As a Giants fan, the absolute rage they feel in their own way. If the Giants win today, somebody named Tommy Smokes, I'm not familiar with his work, but if the Giants win today, they will be 8-30 in their last 38 games. 4 of those 8 wins will have been in week 17 or 18 when they're long eliminated from playoff contention and only playing for draft positioning. You really can't make it up. It's not jet level hell right now being a Giants fan, but it is a version of hell because they just don't. The operation's wonky.
I mean, well, I can name another team that just did the same exact thing and would have had the number 1 pick tonight had they not won the last 2 meaningless games they won, and they live in Cleveland.
We'll get to the Browns, Mark. We're getting there.
Okay, but
we're getting there. Don't worry. Let's take a break and we'll hit the rest of the games. All right, we're back. NFC out of the way. Let's now move to the AFC and see how that conference shook out on the last Sunday of the regular season. I feel like I'm watching the preview channel.
Next on.
It's like, get in the line of fire now on request.
Then it changes, and it's always, oh my God, it used to be this thing when we were in training camp, I think, for Jets, where you would hear the same thing like 30 days in a row. And then it was just like boys night in, and the music changes, and then it's like, you can spend $30 on porn if you'd like.
Anyway, the Broncos did take care of business. 19-3 over the Chargers, who were resting key players, including Justin Herbert. And with the victory, they clinched the AFC's top playoff seed. The big play, Jaquan McMillan, a 45-yard pick six. That was important because, as the Broncos tend to do, they didn't really run away and hide in this game. It was 10-3 at the half, 13-3 at the end of 3. But they did what they had to do, and here they are with home field advantage in the AFC playoffs, where they lost only 1 game at Mile High all year. So they're set up well. They're set up well, but it's like I like this Broncos team. I pumped them up before the season. They end up going 14-3. I'm just curious, like, for instance, like the Desert, will the Broncos be favored by the time they're in the divisional round? Because you can make a case for a lot of these AFC teams around them being every bit their equal. But at the end of the day, in a wide open season, having one less playoff game and getting teams to come into your building is a big deal. So congratulations to the Broncos. The team have heeded the call for getting exactly what they wanted at the end of the regular season.
They're the perfect team to be the ideal team to be 14-3 during one of the weirdest NFL regular seasons we've experienced. They had no offensive touchdowns today. They have 12 wins in games they've trailed this season, the most in NFL history by any team. And they feel that way. And I think that your voice inflection, Dan, as you were sort of setting this up, is like, I want to give you credit. And I think Sean Payton is a genuinely, I don't know what Connor's holding on to in his pocket there about the Payton scenario, but like, Payton is genuinely a difference-making coach, and he's done it. And like, here you are, and like, you are the number 1 seed. And I can't think... There we go.
30K challenge. By the way, what are we waiting for? What if you have not subscribed to the show yet? When we get to 30,000 and we're like 500 subs away, Connor's going to tell an insane story about Sean Payton and his personal.
It could come at the perfect time during their playoff quest.
I might even go as far as saying I might remove the 30K challenge from our listeners if they don't get it done by the time the Broncos play their next game.
Ooh.
Like, I am putting a deadline on this. You want the Sean Payton story? You want to achieve the 30K challenge? Get off your arse and figure it out. And you're like, I've already subscribed. Sign up for another YouTube account. Subscribe again. Let's get
it's just
that
people
Peyton
on
story.
their couch with like a bag of open like Lay's chips on their stomach. Like, get up and act, mother.
Or crisps, if that's what you call them.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I'm eating my crisps. I haven't had a chance yet. So subscribe.
There's like entire.
I'm eating all these crisps. It's like, enough. Do it.
Smash it.
Smash it.
Smash it.
Anyway, to your point, Mark, yes, there's reason for some trepidation around the number 1 seed Broncos, but they also won 14 of 17 games this year, and they have fallen behind in a lot of games, but they've also shown, like, we can't praise the Bears for how the cardiac kids or whatever, and then say, oh, the Broncos aren't impressive. It's like it's a similar type of style, and it's been deeply effective overall.
I will say this. I think that the biggest deal about the Broncos winning today and securing the bye, and Romo kind of mentioned this a little bit sneakily as something that Peyton told him during the week, is that they might be able to get J.K. Dobbins back out of this. And if you watch what Jesse Minter was doing in this game and what a lot of teams are doing now that R.J. Harvey's in, it probably speaks to Peyton's hesitance to give him a featured role. They're just run blitzing these guys, and they're putting Harvey in weird spots where they're scrambling the Broncos protection a little bit, and Harvey's just got to handle a lot more than I think he's capable of at that point, and getting an experienced kind of salty veteran back into the fold for the playoffs, and a guy you can trust in protection a little bit more, and then let Harvey do some of the special projects, like that's going to be a big deal. And I think that changes my outlook on this offense kind of significantly.
The Chargers, by not playing their guys, basically put up the white flag and said we're going to get healthy as healthy as we can for the New England Patriots, as it turns out, next week in Foxborough. That's going to be a great game. Chargers coach Jim Harbaugh said, yeah, New England, focus on New England. That's where our focus will be. And I thought his halftime interview, I pulled this one because I thought it was kind of entertaining. Again, spoke to the grandma's house, like the other grandma's house energy to week 18. Everybody was kind of like just going through the motions a little bit, knowing that they're either ready to go home or ready to play a game that matters the following weekend. Here is a little Wolfson Jim Harbaugh convo.
I think we weathered the storm. Much better on third down there, getting those conversions. Better on defense on third down execution as well. So we're in the fight. Let's stay in the fight. Let's fight.
Well, they're both. That's a double mail-in.
Massive mail-in.
Double mail-in, and she knows it. She's having a great time. It's over.
Hey, Tracy got paid the same amount either way. All right, let's keep moving. Up next, we head to New England, where they were hoping the Broncos would trip up. They did not, but they had to take care of business anyway, because it's fun to take care of business against a division rival. What a year. Listen, nothing would bring me more joy than for this to be the last Patriots win of the season. But even if it isn't, I'm going to be magnanimous here, as Tugboat often can be, despite what Sessler says. I have to say bravo, because the Patriots go 14-3 this year after going, 4-13 last year? That's fucking incredible. 38-10. They take down the Dolphins with ease. Quinn Ewers was the Miami quarterback. Zach Wilson even got in this game. How about that? Zach's like, I got Instagram photos to post for my wedding. Get me off this field. Drake May is in there for a bit. He finishes 14 of 18 for 191 and a touch. And the Patriots win a meaningless game, as it turns out, because, yes, the Broncos did clinch that number 1 seed, but they are the number 2 seed, and as a result are pretty well set up, even if they do have to play next week. I don't know what you want to talk about this game. I could tell you that the reporting out there from Schefter is that the Dolphins are leaning towards keeping Mike McDaniel. So that is a big decision that the Dolphins are going with. I think that's a little bit in line with some of the stuff you've been putting out there too, Connor, and your Sports Illustrated reporting about how they want to go about repairing this roster and moving forward in the front office. So McDaniel likely to survive, although it seemed like he was on the fence even a couple of days ago.
Yeah, and I think that it's still it's like Jacksonville, right? Where let's say Troy Aikman, who's involved in the GM search at this point, they get a candidate and they settle on a candidate, and this GM says, I'm not working with this guy. I'm not taking someone they love, and said, I'm not going to work with that guy. I don't expect that to happen. I think just looking at the market right now, Mike McDaniel is still a top offensive coach on the market, and I think he would probably get another job if he were fired. So I think you stand pat for a year, and then you make your move. So I would be surprised if that changes. That's what I would say.
There are whispers out there that Stephen Ross likes Mike McDaniel.
He does.
That there is an affinity between the two of them. He sees his value, and it's like, I don't know. I guess I'm not trying to be like overly exhausted by the whole hiring cycle, but like someone else is going to look at Mike McDaniel and say, that's exactly what we need. He fits exactly what we want in today's modern offensive-minded coaches. But it just hasn't worked because of the quarterback, because of other stuff in Miami. Greg Olsen made a comment today that Devon Achane, they see as their Christian McCaffrey. And so it's like, who's they? Okay. And who's they a week from
one's
now?
One's a future Hall of Famer and one's Devon Achane, but okay. I know he's had a great year.
I'm saying just in terms of structurally building a team. So you bring in like a new coach and you blow everything up and half these players leave. It's like, is Mike McDaniel the genuine problem here? I just get a little tired of like, it's 3 or 4 years and everyone's gone.
It's the same thing though. It's like, yeah, you could keep McDaniel
But do you think
here.
he's the problem though?
Yeah. He's part of the problem. He's been there 4 years. They haven't won a playoff game. So what?
But they're much better than they were before though.
I guess they went 8-9 last year. They went what?
Well, what if the Jets hired him, or the Browns hired him? Like, I would think that would be.
Not every conversation has to filter through that, and like I have to be honest with you about that. Like, we don't always have to go down that road. I'm talking about the Dolphins and the 4 years that he's been there, and you could say, well, it's the quarterback's fault, or it's this person's fault, or that person's fault. But what if there's somebody out there? If you really turn over some rocks, it's a much better fit to build a championship team. And I don't know. I feel like it's quite unusual. I'll just say this, and I'm not even saying it's a bad decision, because I understand why. If the owner believes in this guy and he's like, well, let's give him a fresh opportunity with a better or a different quarterback. But that's not going to be easy with how much you paid. You were so certain of Tua and McDaniel together that you made Tua a fantastically rich man last year with a contract extension. Like, I understand why they're doing this, but at the same time, it's very unusual in the NFL to get 4 years, not win a playoff game, not come close to winning a playoff game, and they're like, all right, keep doing the same thing. So while I get it, I'm also like, if I'm a fan of an AFC East team, am I like brokenhearted that Mike McDaniel's sticking around? No. I'm like, okay, the Dolphins it's status quo over there.
I get you. I just think he's sort of what teams are looking for right now in this void. And then it's like, we'll just move on from what other teams are looking for.
I would also say the GM was the one who made Tua rich to legitimize the decision to take him when he did, and the GM was the first one to get fired out of the two of them.
That's fair. I mean, I don't know. Did McDaniel have a voice at all in that? I mean,
it's hard to that part's hard to speculate on, but I would say that
he seemed to like Tua quite a lot, at least in his public comments. But
I think publicly he understood that coming from Flores, who was a little bit more of a sandpaper presence, like he needed to act that way in order to at least get anything close to the best out of Tua, which I think is part of it.
Well, we'll see how it all plays out. It could be a totally different conversation 24 hours from now, but let's see. All right, let's move to Duval. Man, I'll tell you what. I am feeling these Jaguars. I am feeling the energy around this team. The chakras? What's that? I don't know. Mark?
The chakras?
I'm feeling the chakras around the Jaguars.
Chakras are typically energy sources within the being. And
yeah,
you could be feeling that.
There's a moment at the end of the first half in the 41-7 win over the Titans where Cam Little lines up. They get a turnover, and then they have time for one play, and they run out Cam Little for a 67-yard field goal attempt. And he pipes it because he's been godlike this year. He's a 22-year-old kicker. Longest made field goal in NFL history outdoors. And, of course, he had set the NFL record earlier in the season with a 68-yard field goal. And he kind of does this thing where he, like, tells everybody to calm down, and then he does a little dance, and the crowd's going absolutely apeshit, and it's just a party, and it's 31-7 at halftime. And I'm like, man, this team, this county, Duval, loves this team. This fan base loves this team. This team, the energy is awesome. You could tell these guys love playing with each other. And most importantly, they're winning every week. They finished 13-4, and the Broncos and Patriots both win, so they can't go and steal the number 1 seed. But I don't want anything to do with the Jaguars next week, and somebody's going to get them, and that's what I have to say. I think this Jaguars have a lot of good juice going into the playoffs. A lot.
And they got what they needed, which is that someone needed to just kind of like flap Trevor Lawrence out like a towel. You know what I mean? And just get him playing with just that remarkable purpose and confidence on a week in and week out basis. And I think having a dependable or at least pseudo dependable run game does a lot of that for you. But a lot of this is just, Trevor being allowed to be Trevor and knowing that you're going to get the backstop of a really good defense and having the coach like collecting all the vibes. And I'll be the first one to walk the plank on this. I thought first time head coach, first time GM, first time play callers at all coordinator positions. Bad idea. Turns out, I'm a shit for brains. So I'm willing to say that.
Yeah, I'm the second to walk the plank. I'll push you off and then probably walk back and then just get back on board and be like, fine. But I will say that I think there's a collective disbelief in what the Jaguars have offered us as football observers for 20 years that kind of slows your willingness to jump on board to this kind of stuff. But I can't think of another team. Well, okay, up there with the Seahawks and the Bears, the Jaguars have meshed and developed and grown, and so is their quarterback over the course of this season. And it's we have to be looking at them with eyes open for what they really are. And they're dominating teams. And you have to separate, for me, just with anything, what the Jaguars meant forever. They're completely different under this coaching regime. They found the right coaching regime right now. And the quarterback is playing in a way that we've always waited for. And I don't think they're anything but extremely dangerous in the playoffs.
And we had a lot of fun with James Gladstone, the young GM, the boy GM. Yeah. And yes, the Travis Hunter pick right now, it's very inconclusive as he's on injured reserve, whether that was the football shifting move that will change how we view the sport. But he's still the GM of this team that's 13-4. So Liam Cohen was a home run hire, as it turned out, and we had some fun with that. Sean Payton had some fun with the Jaguars, even in a Sean Payton way, by saying, it's a good little small market team. And now you see all these signs at Everbank Stadium, like a small market team. Then in the locker room, check out the vibes in the locker room. There's some type of meme going around about Trevor Lawrence and having a grill or something, and then he gets presented with one by his team after the game. Check this out.
I got something to say, Trevor, because it's fun. We appreciate you so much for everything you do. I just want you to know all of Jacksonville behind you. We know it's a meme that's kind of going viral, so we got your own video.
I mean, vibes, man. Vibes matter. And this is a funny sport because the Jaguars can, trip and fall on their face in 7 days and it'll all be over. But right now, this feels like a team that is loving playing together and might be going on an extended journey in January. And we'll find out. All right.
Got to get Conor a grill. That's our next.
Yes.
Before we move on, we have got to talk about the most depressing thing that happened this entire season. Cam Ward, on the first drive, suffers an AC joint sprain, grade 3. Unclear yet if he'll need surgery. If he doesn't need surgery, it's a 6 to 12 week recovery. If he does need surgery, it's a 6 to 9 month recovery, and it basically wrecks his whole offseason. And football is stupid. I hate this sport. I don't know what we're doing here. And we can't talk about this game and not mention that because it's massively impactful for the future of the Tennessee Titans. So just go kill myself. Bye-bye.
That's not fun, Justin. I feel for you. as your friend.
All right. Let's hope it's not the more serious ailment, Justin.
Well, it's the Titans, and only 1 to 2% of AC joint quarterback injuries do require surgery. But because it's the Titans, of course it will. Of course, it'll be the worst case scenario.
I get it. Let's best wishes to 0 star. How about 0 surgeries for 0 star?
Yes,
would be nice. Fingers crossed.
How about just 1 6 to 12 week rest and rehab scenario and 0 surgeries for 0 star?
Yes. Cam Ward did win the 5 minutes of this game that he played, 7-0. And the Titans lost the 55 minutes he didn't play, 41-0.
You're losing us slowly with
pretty
the
impactful player there.
All right, let's move on to Indianapolis, where the Houston Texans needed a win and some help to steal the AFC South. They didn't get the help, but they got the win. C.J. Stroud counted for 2 touchdowns in one half of work before everyone looked up at the scoreboard and saw Jacksonville was taking care of their business. And then Kaimi Fairburn, easy for me to say, made a go-ahead field goal, 12 seconds left to lift the Texans to a 38-30 win over the Colts. That's a 9-game winning streak for the Texans going into the playoffs. The Colts, once 8-2, finish 8-9, which is hardcore. The Texans, as we said, will now head to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers on Monday night. Your thoughts on this game, gentlemen?
I mean, I forget who brought it up. I think it was Dan. You were the one that was riding the crusade on this. Did we waste a little bit of time? Like, the Phillip Rivers thing was cool, but Riley Leonard looks not bad, right? Did we waste a little bit of time not, having him play a couple games?
Yeah, I mean, Leonard played really well in this game.
That's what I'm saying.
And I think what it comes down to it, and I tweeted about this because, listen, I don't want to be that killjoy and act like, oh, that Phillip Rivers thing, what a disgrace it was. But let's be real. They did go 0-3. He was pretty decrepit, even though he carried himself, he comported himself as well as one could have hoped. But it also kind of whiffs me. It has the whiff of the Jeff Saturday hire by Carly Ursay's old man to me, especially after you watch Leonard and you're like, oh, we could have gotten a real runway to see if this kid could play or not. Instead, you get this week 18 glimpse. And I wouldn't say he was perfect, but he definitely played well enough to say, okay, this guy is somebody who has a chance to be in this quarterback room. I think it's very fair to have that conversation while also saying, well, at the same time, as a football fan, that was a lot of fun. The Phillip Rivers thing was fun, and it just wasn't effective ultimately. And then with Leonard playing well, it makes it a little bit more, Just keep in mind, though, Leonard was banged up also at the time of the Phillip Rivers move. He might not have been healthy for that first Seattle game, but at the same time, yes, the Rivers thing, in retrospect, seems a little bit silly, even if it was fun.
I mean, it was also a day where Jonathan Taylor had 26 yards rushing on 14 carries. So it wasn't like Riley Leonard was just being lifted up by others the way that you'd want that Colts offense to do it. But like, they're a weird team because I feel like Chris Ballard has got to go down the well of a different quarterback every season, and it's failed like 12 times at this point. Like, I like Riley Leonard. It looked good today. Interesting prospect, but like, you can't settle there. You got a lot else you got to deal with at that position. Like, they've got a lot to deal with. And I think the number one thing is that there is reporting out there that Shane Steichen will stay, that he'll be safe. I think that was a question mark a couple weeks ago.
Not reporting. The Colts announced it, that both Steichen and Ballard will return for 2026.
Well, that seems like reliable reporting to me.
We're talking about Jonathan Taylor. The offense, and this pretty much overlaps with Daniel Jones getting hurt, or pretty close to it. But after he had the 244-yard, 3-touchdown game against the Falcons in early November, the back end of the season, this was Jonathan Taylor's yardage in the games rushing: 58, 85, 74, 87, 46, 70, and 26 today. So they're a complete collapse of the offense. And I guess it underscores in some way, Connor, the importance of having stability at quarterback and how that makes everything go. But Jonathan Taylor, that's frustrating because he does profile at times like a guy who's quarterback proof and you could run the offense through him, but there were no solutions for them anywhere on the offense once they were turning away from Jones and the Achilles injury.
No, I think once there was a couple adequate run blitzes that got put on tape against this team, it's just hard. There's a lot of stuff that's just hard to prevent against. I mean, you can try to run every which way, and you're going to get stymied. And I thought maybe the only team that I thought kind of broke through that creatively was Miami at certain points this season, that really sort of wonked up their personnel and tried to do some stuff to get their lead back free. But Indianapolis just, I don't think they had the horses to do it. And once you zero in on really what the game plan is with them, it's tough. It's tough to get Jonathan Taylor going when everyone knows that that's what they want to do.
The Texans, by the way, another reminder, started 0-3, finished 12-5. And I just want to point out one guy on their side of the ball, Kayemi Fairbairn, who, when you have in fantasy a kicker, you're more likely to be really tracking their season closely. I had him in fantasy. This guy was nails all season for the Texans, and especially down the stretch. He went 6 for 6 in this game, and that's just like, he's a weapon. He's a weapon, and this is a team that has a excellent defense. They have an unreal pass rush. They have a quarterback in C.J. Stroud playing very well, and then they have in their place kicker a guy who is battle-tested and a weapon for them. So the Texans are in very good shape. The Colts, there's a lot of question marks, which we'll get into. 2 quick notes here from ESPN Research. The Colts are the first team in the Super Bowl era to be at one point be 6 games over 500 and then end the season with a losing record. And this from Rap Sheet. Several sources say Phillip Rivers could end up as a head coach candidate this cycle, and the current belief is that Rivers gets at least one opportunity to interview, possibly more. Okay. Not with my team, but have at it.
Well, you never know.
I would say Shane Steichen, head on a swivel, my friend. I guess he's safe now, but like, if they were crazy enough to take him off the couch, yeah. Well, this is the Ursays. That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Like, reality and what the common thinking is doesn't always go hand in hand with the way they operate. But Steichen is safe, but I don't know. Like, knowing what I know, would I be feeling great about the future after this season? It's tough.
Well, when I read it was he might get one interview, it's like, okay, who told someone that they want to interview him? Someone out there wants to interview him.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when it's like the year that the Texans really wanted to interview Josh McCown as a head coach, and they were like, "Can someone else just interview him so it doesn't look as weird when we do it? Because we've been saying we're going to do it for a couple weeks," and they did it, and nothing happened.
And last note on this all-time backfire trades: they gave up 2 first-round picks to bring Sauce Gardner in as the final piece of their defense. They lose 7 straight games to end the season. He suffers a calf injury a month and a half ago and never returns. And they go from 8-2 to 8-9, all the way up to the 16th pick, which the Jets get. That is a crazy turn of events for the Colts, and I'm sure there's a little whiplash still about where the season was and where it finished. All right, let's keep moving. Speaking of the Jets, woof. I'm adding this to my lock manifesto, by the way. Never move off a lock inside the segment. Go with your first choice. I had said there's no chance. Right. I don't care who's playing quarterback for the Bills. This Jets team is historically awful. They've quit on the coach. They have a quarterback who wouldn't even be successful in the UFL. There's no way they're going to keep this thing within 3 or 4 touchdowns. I moved off it, and I eat the poop as a result because the Bills absolutely cruise. They're up 35-0 in this game before the Jets score a mercy TD late. 35-8 is the final. The Bills play their final game at Rich Stadium, the Ralph, Highmark, whatever you want to call it. There is a chance, because they're the 6th, not the 7th seed, that they could host the AFC title game if, I guess, the Chargers made it all the way to the title game. But otherwise, yes, that's the last game at that stadium before they moved to the new.
Like, come shovel
facility.
snow, please, again, everybody.
Yeah, please be part of it. It was like, can we calm down about the rich history of this stadium? It's like, how many chips? All right, I'll stop.
I mean, we like the Bills stadium.
Oh, we love the Bills stadium, please. I'm just saying, like, this isn't Lambeau closing, but okay.
Glad we got that off our chest. That's going to go very well with.
But no, I mean, there's nothing to take out of this game other than shout out to, again, the weird energy of this Week 18 when poor Charles Davis is in the booth trying to pump up the fact that Ty Johnson is one touchdown away from a $250,000 bonus. And like, that's supposed to be keeping us in the telecast. That's a tough one. But that was the deal. It's a Jets team that's been ready to go home, that has lost at a historic rate in December, getting blown out every week. And the Bills just taking care of business, sending the fans home happy. By the way, happy trails to Charles Davis, who announced his last game with CBS on the NFL side of things before he moves into a prominent role on the college side of things. We always loved CD when we worked with him at NFL Network. But the Bills, the big test is coming, and it starts next week, and I can't wait to see what version of Buffalo shows up.
I'm sure your appetite for Jets futility porn at this point is exhausted, Dan, but I just have to point out this one thing.
Mark's might be, but we don't know where Dan's at with that.
Just imagine how I feel, Mark. Put it that way.
Imagine how I also root for the Browns, which seems to be forgotten, but continue to go on, Connor. With
Mark, do you want to tell me how many interceptions the Browns had this year?
More than the Jets, which was 0, which I think is kind of remarkable, by the way. I think it's kind of special.
I'm saying, don't be upset that your team's season wasn't as terrible as my team's season.
We're not doing the
it.
6th grade thing where we decide who has a worse sports
No, that's
team.
what you're doing. That's what I'm saying. We don't have to do it. Just understand that this is arguably the worst season in the history of the Jets, as you were saying, Connor.
So, yes, this is from our good friend Rich Samidi. It was just too good of a stat to pass up.
Go ahead.
So the Jets trailed by double digits on 53.1% of their offensive plays this season. Dan, that is the highest percentage by any team that has played football this century. So,
yeah, they ended the game. They ended the season on a 5-game losing streak, outscored 188 to 54. 188 to 54. And like, that's great. They ended up getting the number 2 pick in the draft. And I get your frustration, Mark. But like, look at the Browns as an example. They were out of it. They at least played hard down the stretch. They played for the coach.
We don't need to go down this road, but that's
you
goal
started
is
it.
to get
So I'm just continuing.
The goal is to get a quarterback. So winning to utterly meaningless games is not.
Here's the thing, though. It's one thing to, and this is, I think, something that people are missing about this. Like, oh, but they're tanking, right? It's like, yes, but there are different ways. It sounds crazy, but there are different ways to tank. Like, you can strip things down and put yourself in a position where you're probably not going to win. But it's clear that everyone's kind of invested in trying to keep the dignity of the team and the organization. That was not the case down the stretch. And like, we talked about it, Connor, on Thursday. The Jets are not going to fire Aaron Glenn. We're hearing that, but it doesn't mean they shouldn't. And I just find like this is just going to be a team that is going to go into next year probably with a new quarterback, and with a lot of new roster pieces, but this huge question mark in the center, which is, did you hire the wrong guy? And I think you wrote about it on SI, Connor, and I'm with you on it. Like, sometimes you just got to bite down hard and take the L. And I don't think they're going to do it. And it just feels like a massive mistake that's going to set them back further. And like I said, Jets fans are so furious about where this team is right now that it feels like they're doing it again and just going to get them deeper into the shit, if that's even possible. Just a really depressing ending to the season.
Well, I would just ask, like, who's been developed this year? I mean, and that's an honest question. Like, who's been developed? And you're going to possibly get like the number 2 pick quarterback in the NFL. And I don't think they're going to do the quarterback thing this offseason. I would be surprised if they did. But even if they do, they bring in a pick at number 2. Like, this guy doesn't have a track record of developing anybody or fostering any sort of goodwill. He's benched his quarterback. He's fired his defensive coordinator. He's placed blame on literally everybody else in this organization except for himself to this point. And so it's like, okay, now we're going to do this with a poor 23-year-old kid coming out of college. All right.
And
it's not a place you want to go as a quarterback. Like, Garrett Wilson led the team with 395 receiving yards. That's,
he hasn't played in 2 months.
I get that, but apparently no one else is being developed or playing. Like, Pop Warner teams could top that in certain parts of the country.
I mean, that's the two things that they really whiffed on. Obviously, I thought were Glenn thinking that he could take this team, what was left behind, and turn it into an instantly competitive team, a team that Jets fans would be proud of, as he infamously now said. And then the total whiff on Justin Fields. And then once Fields was not the answer, Tyrod Taylor does what he does, which is get hurt. And then you're playing with this kid Cook who should not be in the league. And it's just like, oh, I'm so glad it's over. Honestly, that's the only positive here, is that it is over. And yes, reporting out there, including Schefter, is that Aaron Glenn is safe. And it's crossed my mind that Woody Johnson and company, when it was 35-0 in the fourth quarter, it's like, what would it take for them to move off that even today? Like, what if they lose 60-0 in this game? Like, what 100-0? What would it actually take for them to be like, shit, we got this hire wrong? And to the point earlier, like, yeah, maybe Mike Vrabel's not waiting on the wings, but like, this is a pretty big sample size, I thought, to when you know that you don't have the right guy. Man, I hope I'm wrong, but I think they got the wrong guy, and they're going to go into a new era of the team with the same guy. Oof. All right, let's move to Vegas. So I said the Jets have the number 2 pick. It's the Raiders that end up with the number 1 pick, despite winning. The Raiders won today, beating the Chiefs 14-12, getting a late field goal, a 60-yard field goal from Daniel Carlson in the final seconds after the Chiefs had taken the lead late in this game. Just a total absurd affair between two AFC West sad operations this year. Connor. Yes, even though the Jets and the Raiders had the same record, the strength of schedule by 4 points was worse for the Raiders, which gives them the first pick in the draft and whatever quarterback they want.
Yeah. I had thought a lot about my fellow beat writer brethren today, because I was, you watch the game and then you go and you read about what everybody's writing about, and it's just like, yeah, Daniel Carlson redemption story with a 60-yard kick, and it's like, just slam a door in my face. Like, I can't, end this fucking season, and I just think that's how I felt with it. I mean, nice gutsy 60-yarder. Pete Carroll now knows that he could win a game. He wins a game at the last second, and hey, good for them.
Speaking of Pete Carroll, Rap Sheet and Pelissero reported that the feeling around the league now is that Pete Carroll will be one and done. Here's a quote: "Signs are pointing toward another reset in Las Vegas, where Pete Carroll's status is very much in doubt. It would be, at this point, a major surprise if Carroll returns for a second season." So this is an experiment that did not work out for the Raiders, obviously. And one other Raiders note, Rossini reported that the Raiders also might look to trade Max Crosby, whose contract is very tradable. There is a growing belief that the Raiders would be open to moving Crosby in the offseason, and that would make sense for where this team is. As for the Chiefs, yeah, and what might have been Travis Kelce's last game, they have to look in the mirror too. But this obviously actually helped them and made their draft pick a little bit better. And the only thing that would have made it better is if it cost the Raiders the quarterback that they wanted, but the New York Giants made sure that wouldn't happen. So I don't know. Anybody else have any other questions about Raiders versus Chiefs? Connor, do you have anything to add to the discourse?
I think it was like 2.5 sacks from Chris Jones today, so that he's like third now in Chiefs history in sacks. So it was like a nice little meaningless cleanup game there for Chris Jones. So good for him.
Nice. All right, let's close things out with a trip to Cincinnati, where records were on the line. Oh, it happened. It took until late in the fourth quarter, but Myles Garrett got his 23rd sack of the season, setting an NFL record previously held by TJ Watt and the odious Michael Strahan.
Odious.
And the Browns even win the game.
I'm going to get my sack back.
I had turned this off. I thought that the Bengals had won until this very moment, but apparently the Browns scored late and captured a 20-18 victory over the Bengals, Mark. Congratulations. A win-win, but kind of a loss.
Yeah, they're now picking like 24th in the draft, so it's been a great couple of weeks, and I'm just told I have to enjoy these victories from the root of my soul.
That's what we're saying.
So, I get it. We've already talked about the Myles Garrett thing week after week, but it did finally happen. It's interesting to me because I feel like if you said this player's can have 23 takedowns, and you could roll like a 23-sided die, and the one that is captured by history was one where he blew a quarterback's helmet off and destroyed him, and like it was the most powerful sack of all time. You'd be like, okay, but this one was visually, now that I've watched it 4 or 5 times, I found it to be...
Don't do it.
No. Like, he got the record because he's a great player. But if this is the one that they're going to replay over and over, and they're not. They're just not going to... This is more important to some of us than others, but like, it was not the most visually compelling Myles Garrett sack that we've seen. And that's putting it lightly.
Just enjoy it,
I'm just leaving it there.
Just enjoy it.
I can enjoy.
Great.
Like, what does it mean? Like, when you say just enjoy it, like, what do you want me to do? Waltz around like Hollywood Boulevard, like pantless? Like, I mean, it's like, it's fine, but like within 5 seconds of this happening, I'm getting texts from you guys saying like, well, that didn't look legitimate. Like, they're like, what did you say? Kind of like, someone's already ready to like interview Joe Burrow to see if he took a dive. It's like, are we going down this road? It's like, if we are, I will acknowledge that visually it was not the most compelling, devastating defensive maneuver that Myles Garrett's ever put on tape, but he set the record
though. You know,
he set the record.
Yes, he did.
But I get where, if we want to parse it, like, has that gone further since we've started taping? Are people digging into this?
Yeah, so I'm just browsing Twitter as we record, looking for news and notes and nugs and things to add to the show, and something I just stumbled across. So the NFL's Brian McCarthy, who I guess is the league's
PR guy,
chief spokesman, head of communications, just issued a statement. I will read it. In the 106 seasons of the National Football League, our official record book has served as a roadmap for our league's rich history. It is the duty of the commissioner's office not only to celebrate these historic achievements, but also protect them. In the fourth quarter of today's contest between Cleveland and Cincinnati, Myles Garrett was credited with a sack on a play in which quarterback Joe Burrow gave himself up. In action, the league deemed to be a clear collusion attempt by the players to set a new sack record. As a result, we will not credit Garrett, and he will finish the season with 22 sacks. Joe Burrow has been fined $500,000 for his actions. He has the right to appeal.
Holy $500,000?
Holy shit.
Whoa.
All right, now I feel bad, Mark. That is crazy.
Well, apparently we both root for fruitless operations.
Shit.
But that is an insane news story, and it's not just the Garrett part, it's the Burrow part. Perfect little Joe Burrow.
They took away the record from you, Mark.
That is a massive NFL story.
I'm going to get my sack back.
He did.
He got the sack back. Mark, how you feeling?
Is that real, Justin, or did you just AI that? You AI'd that, first of all. I know you did.
We're fucking with you.
I'll give you a lot of credit because that was well read, but I was like, I know Brian McCarthy, and he usually keeps it to 2 sentences that say nothing. But like,
you know what? You're a class act, Mark. Because if it would have been a jet flyer, I would have been going through the roof.
Well, I was stunned by it. If anything, that was well.
No, it wasn't. You're right. It wasn't the most beautiful sack, but it was legit. And
yeah.
And by the way, Strahan, that was pretty good. Strahan, they go to the post-game show, and this guy, I'm so happy that the sack record has its dignity back. Listen to this jerk after the game.
You okay, bub? I hold the record for 16-game season. They hold records for 17-game season. That's the way it works out.
He's still claiming the title.
You can't compare records from 12-game seasons to 16 and 17-game seasons. It doesn't work.
All right.
I think that's just a sports thing, right? I think it was baseball before football had a lot of that.
Yeah. By the way, the snaps played, which, on passing downs, Myles Garrett got 23 sacks and 437 snaps on passing downs. Strahan did it in 567. So Strahan might have actually played one less game, but he had far more opportunities to get the record than Myles Garrett did. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, Strahan.
Absolutely. And Watt had 616. Like, there is no questioning the effectiveness of Myles Garrett as a successful pass rushing machine. Like in this, that's why I have no problem with what it looked like today. It looked fine, but it's like you scared me there for a second. Though.
Yeah, that would have been.
Threw me.
Yeah, well, you showed a lot of grace under fire. All right, that's it. Is there anything else to add about that game? I don't give a shit, right? I don't.
Not really.
The Bengals were big mad about the refs stopping down the game to celebrate the sack.
You know what? Go
So
home.
funny.
Go home. Go to Cancun. Speaking of Cancun, what are you going to do, Jamar Chase, now that the season's over?
I'm going to go to Cancun like everybody told me to do. And I'm going to enjoy myself because I don't have nothing else to do. So I'm taking myself there.
There you go. All right. Congratulations to Myles Garrett and Marc Sessler. 2-game winning streak to end the season. That you could build off that. Speaking of which, let's check on the final as before we say goodbye. The draft order for April 23rd, my birthday, by the way. It will be the Raiders picking first, followed by the Jets, then the Cardinals, the Titans, the Giants. Could have been 1 if they just lost today. They would have been 1. Instead, they're 5. The Browns do drop to 6. They also could have had the first pick in the draft before they won these games. The Commanders pick 7th, Saints 8. Look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are in the top 10 of the draft. Let's see what they do with it. The Bengals picking 10th. What are they going to do with it? Then we have the Dolphins at 11, Cowboys at 12, the Rams picking at 13 because they get the Falcons draft pick because of the trade at the draft last year. Ravens at 14, Bucks 15, the Jets again because they get the Colts first round pick at 16, Lions 17, and the Vikings at 18. That's the first half, more or less, of the first round of the NFL draft. Let the games begin. All right.
Well, that means you have to work on your birthday if the draft's on your birthday. I think that's sort of not a positive.
Not a positive, a big negative, one would say. But also, we're pros. We're bros who are pros. Thank you to everybody, all the hedonists out there who have followed along during this long marathon of a regular season, and just know the fun is just beginning as we begin the journey through the playoffs. Also, let it be known that merch is really starting to arrive right now. We're starting to get some tweets of people in their hot gear. So if you want to get Heed the Call merchandise, heedthecallpodcast.com for exclusive merch, and also use the various social media platforms to give us ideas for what we should do in our next line that will drop at some point in 26. We're always open to those ideas. Mark, what do you have to say at the end of another regular season?
One thing on merch, like, we are getting photos, and send us those photos, and we want to retweet them and just show people. Like, we're watching regular dads and guys and others go from 6.5s to 8.2s when they put the merch on. So that's an instructive thing for you. I would just say it has been a journey whenever you go through this, and we truly love our listeners. We really, really do. We have a different listener base than any other show out there. Many have been listening for well over a decade to what we do covering football, and we do it for you. If it weren't for you, I just wouldn't be doing this. money aside, and the money is not. There's some financial aspect to it, but just
and also
aside
which I know. Second part of your point is smash the subscribe button.
Hit that
of
button.
course, bang it. And Connor, this is the last chance. I'm going to say it again. If you want to hear Connor's like unbelievable, brutal takedown expose of the head coach of the Broncos, you got to get us to 30,000 subs before the Broncos playoff game, or that goes on the shelf until we get to 50,000. And we don't want to do that. So there's the challenge. Okay. Connor, you lost your lock, but big night for the Catholics, and we'll take the wins where we can get them.
Big night for JC.
Yeah, have a great slumber, Connor, on the East Coast. Everybody else, we'll see you Monday with the final power rankings, and we'll revisit our over-unders. I mean, the fun is just beginning. We love you all. Hedonists forever. Till next time, do what you must. Heed the call.